Chase throws in the flat. Pass is complete to Clayton. First down and then some. Goodbye, Mark Clayton. To the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Incredible.
This is 365 Sports.
Motion by Oliver. Lucky will go the other way on the option. Pulls it down. Touchdown, Aggies.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
McNabb, straight back. Left side, he's all alone. It's a touchdown. Conrad. A defensive breakdown, and Conrad was all alone. He goes into the end zone for the second touchdown. Nobody was over there.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Maurice Claret is the tailback, or the single back. He's got it. He's got a touchdown.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Hello, end zone. Won't catch it.
LaMichael James, and ladies and gentlemen, right now, this young man is a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And hello, everybody, on this Monday.
Sorry about that. You give me a few days off, and this is what happens. Good afternoon, 365 Sports on a Monday. And we will have plenty of news on what happened with the key numbers and names in the portal from over the weekend, but also what is happening today. And, oh, by the way, we have a college baseball national writer to kind of give us an idea that will make MC Gusto very, very happy. Hope you had a great Easter weekend, if that's what you celebrate, because it is now the end of April staring upon us as we head into May. When does the portal close? Is it this Friday?
Yeah, I believe it does close this Friday. It's only a 10-day window to get in the portal. Now, obviously, you have more than 10 days to pick where you're going to go. Mm-hmm. Not everybody goes in with a do not contact tag or has a plan specifically. So I wonder, I wonder how many more people will jump in this week. And obviously we've got some to get to that have based on other people like reactionary portal,
which we had today.
Jumps, yeah.
Which we had today. All right, Craig and Oklahoma fans, of course, are excited. David Stone, 5-star player, played last year, entered the portal, remember, at some point last week, and he's now withdrawn his name. He will remain at Oklahoma. That is not only huge for David Stone, but OU couldn't afford to lose their best recruit in quite some time, and so he's going to remain. I'm sure there was discussions. I don't know if there was more business decisions, but Oklahoma keeps their 5-star defensive lineman.
I mean, yeah, that's good. He obviously felt like he had some things he needed to listen to or whatever chatter was going on behind the scenes that led to his entry into the portal. But sometimes they do go out and look at the other grass and see that it's not greener, or they maybe hear some things that they like that get them to change their minds or whatever. But whatever happened with David Stone, he went and played in the portal for a couple of days basically and decided that Norman was still for him. And for that, I'm thankful because, yeah, it would be a bad look to lose a big-time recruit like that so quickly, although not all that out of the likelihood these days that occurs, but still it would have been a bad look and a bad feeling in your stomach as an Oklahoma fan, and just more of a wondering of if this is the right staff in the right direction. But that does soothe your feelings a little bit to get him back into the fold, so some of those questions disappear, and now you just hope that he can go play and live up to that 5-star big time blue chip status and help out this team as they try to get back on track a little bit from what was a disappointing year in their first debut year in the SEC.
One thing he couldn't have done was go to an SEC team. And that knocks out a lot of teams that maybe you think he would want to play for, but he's back at Oklahoma. He remains with the Sooners.
Look, based on his position, he could have had his pick of every other team that he would want to go to in the country.
Sure.
If they met his financial.
Which 5-star, other than quarterback, is the next position you would rather if you could get 5 stars?
Well, I mean, it's left tackle or defensive tackle right now. I mean, like those guys go really fast because, you heard last week, with Fran Brown saying, I'm not paying $2 million for a wide receiver because offenses in college, for the most part, can get the most out of wide receivers that are not necessarily all Jeremiah Smith, right? But defensive tackles, left tackles are really hard, or tackles, offensive linemen, blindside protectors, pass rushers, those kind of guys. I guess defensive ends in that too. I mean, look at Walter Nolan and Princely Uman-Milan in the same week last year at Ole Miss in the transfer portal, both cashed in huge because of the demand for those positions.
All right, so there you go. That's the David Stone decision. He remains at Oklahoma, and it was in the portal, just dipped his toe and decided he would remain in Norman. Meanwhile, Georgia had themselves a weekend. They landed more than just Elo Modozi from Army. It's a former wide receiver, by the way, who was a fantastic player for Army, the cadets at West Point. He now is headed to Georgia. They had others that also, in fact, 3 players total, including him. We're not going to go through everybody because we're not a newspaper or an online as far as like website, but that's a nice pickup for Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldog defense.
Well, especially since they lost their best 2 pass rushers to the draft. They're both going to be first rounders on Thursday, and Mikael Williams and Jalen Walker. Elo Modozi comes over, and this is the second big player they lost. Of course, the running back that went to Arizona State as well. And this is the time, like, they have to make their decision. If they don't leave after the second year, then you're in the Army now. You can't back out of it. So got to take those opportunities as they come. You're going to get a guy who played with a team that has a lot of discipline and is super athletic because he used to be a wide receiver. So it's interesting to see what will happen at Georgia when they get their hands on this guy.
Maryland defensive lineman Lavon Johnson has signed with Texas. Now, I kind of saw this, and this is it's what college football is. He was at one time somewhere, then he ends up at Maryland, then he actually signed with North Carolina, and then later in the day signs with Texas. So UT gets another defensive lineman, and of course they have probably the best group of defensive linemen maybe in the country. That's debatable, but not with many other teams. And so he ends up Maryland, North Carolina in the same day, decides he will end up in Texas. So there was some juggling going on, and he gets his money. Texas gets another defensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they have the best defensive lineman this year, but I think they're a team that every single year they're in the mix for having the best defensive line, and they're a school that produces them at a rapid clip. And so I don't fault anybody that wants to go play defensive line there, or any position for that matter, but especially up front, because they just seem to churn those dudes out. But they, like everybody else, can always use more, and don't know exactly what their situation is, because I'm not into already, having memorized the 2025 depth charts for next season. But Texas is a great spot for a D lineman to flourish, and I think the most interesting part is the double commitment when you've already chosen a school and somehow miraculously hours later you're going to another school. I mean, that doesn't even happen that rarely with high school recruits, much less guys who are already in college. So I guess his phone was burning up, or his agent's phone, or his DMs, or however you want to categorize that. But clearly there was some talking and negotiating going on that benefits him. So good for LaVon Johnson to have the suitors to eventually land him where he went. And obviously with, I would imagine, a nice little bag of money following along with him as well to make that decision flip from UNC. So a tough loss there for Belichick. That remains a really interesting school heading into next year of just what that's going to look like. But with Texas, you know what that looks like right now with Sark. So, I don't blame him one bit, but it's a little funky pulling the double commitment and having that along with your portal entry.
Kyle Visser just said, we had a couple of guys that played in the spring game and after the game was over, played in the spring game, and after the game was over, entered the portal. It is that way. Nothing surprises me. That doesn't mean you still can't have your opinion on it, whether people agree with you or not, but it does seem to be as wild as ever before. And then because of Nico Iamaleava headed to UCLA, which happened, of course, early in the weekend, Joey Aguilar, who was at Appalachian State, threw for over 6,000 yards and 61 touchdowns. He now enters the portal. Nico at UCLA. Now, is Aguilar going to end up where? Is it going to be Tennessee? Where do you guys think? And, of course, this is part of the revolving door and musical chairs.
Look, unless he doesn't fit the offense there at Tennessee, if I'm Josh Heupel, this is the guy I'm calling. I mean, he's the one with the most experience. He'll help me from having a drop off and have to go with either a redshirt freshman or a true freshman this year. I mean, their kind of options are him, Steve Angeli, or some kind of developmental guy, and then
Angeli from Notre Dame.
Yeah, from Notre Dame. I think this is the best one because he's done the most. And you look for not only potential but performance in the portal. And this is a guy who's performed. I mean, granted, it's a different level. And it is weird to me that he's going to find himself in a situation where, he could go from App State to UCLA and then into the SEC with one of the better teams because of all this.
Craig, your thoughts about Aguilar and also either a landing spot, or I'm not going to predict that because I don't know enough about that, but he now, because of Nico, is now headed somewhere else, it appears.
Yeah, well, I think the Nico thing's interesting because that wasn't official when we left on Friday, so we haven't even talked about that, although we kind of talked about it, basically being a foregone conclusion. But, yeah, I mean, I think any portal entry right now is a guy who – do you think he's going to play at Tennessee? I mean, I think that's what everybody's thinking with anybody who were to timing-wise jump in like Aguilar is. So, yeah, Tennessee clearly needs a quarterback. I mean, so – The running joke is going to be every time you see a quarterback available, hey, Tennessee could use a guy. And so, yeah, that seems like he could be a fit. Seems like, whoever else is out there could be a fit because at this point they need to add some bodies. But, yeah, they also, would potentially need to add a starting quarterback. So, sure, throw Aguilar's name into the mix as a possibility there. Don't know if there's any other options that make more sense for him, if there's any other connections that maybe we're missing out on. But, yeah, Tennessee is the logical spot for anybody who's a quarterback right now to at least see some speculation.
Because
I was going to say, to answer that question, Craig, Pete Nakos is saying that the early schools are obviously Tennessee, Tulane, and Wake Forest.
And so that's not even,
it's
not even really a contest. If you're going – biggest, brightest stars and lights and competition, then that's a pretty easy choice there. But, yeah, okay, Tulane and Wake Forest, I think Tennessee's a pretty good betting favorite.
All right, so Craig mentioned this. I was out Thursday, Friday, but Nico Iamaleava made the decision. He put his decision up on Instagram that he was, in fact, headed to UCLA. UCLA's coaching staff, I saw where Pete Thamel had the report, too, that they had informed the players on the roster that Nico Iamaleava was going to be on campus and also a part of their roster. One of the notes that he did release when he said that he was leaving, and he said all the right things, but there was one quote that I kind of caught my attention. This decision was incredibly difficult. I can see that. And truthfully, not something I expected to make this soon because obviously things changed all of a sudden. Maybe he or his staff or his group representatives, father, et cetera, thought he was going to get what he wanted. Tennessee said no. They move on. but I still thought it was interesting. I wasn't something I expected to make this soon. He now will be at UCLA.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have to make that decision. Like, when he says that, not expected to, but he did. And we'll see. I mean, I think the bigger question for Nico Iamaleava going forward is, okay, you made this big decision. You know, we're not privy to what the money is, but, you know, all reports are it's going to be less. And also the talent around you is not as good. The coaching around you is not as experienced. If I'm going to make a decision for me, if I intend on being an NFL quarterback, those are the things I'm asking, especially if I'm getting as much money as Nico Iamaleava. And maybe he's right and maybe I'm wrong, but I think this was a decision that if he was going to make it, he very much should have made it in December.
Eric Sondheimer, who writes for the LA Times, has covered high school sports in LA and the Southern California for nearly 50 years. He'll join us today on the story and what he remembers and watching the career of Nico Iamaleava. He'll join us today a little bit after the 5 o'clock hour.
Yeah, I don't think Joey Aguilar is a big fan of Nico at this point, obviously, as we just connect those two stories. So, yeah, he was there at UCLA. Now it's Nico time there in Westwood, and we'll see if the juice was really worth the squeeze for the Bruins. I mean, they seem to be pretty much the market ever since that story started to develop and things started to become clear on his departure. So, weird spotlight on UCLA that I don't think they're quite used to. Does it pay off for them in the end? I doubt it, because I don't think his odds have increased in any way whatsoever to go and accomplish what he could potentially have accomplished at Tennessee this upcoming year. Now, I know they're not the exact same team that made it to the playoffs a year ago, but I don't think UCLA is equipped to sit there and make a run to the playoffs just because they've added him at this point. I don't think he's got better odds to win the Big Ten than he did to win the SEC, as tough as that league may be. The Big Ten's, right there as well. So I don't know. We know that the money is not apparently as good either. So I don't know if this was all worth it in the end. You downgraded in pretty much every single way you could downgrade, from money to program to, maybe not competition, but to playoff odds to all of that. So, I hope the family's happy. I'm sure they're, counting their cash, and ultimately that's what matters, because that seems like what was really driving this all behind the scenes to begin with, not his NFL odds and things like that, because I don't think his NFL odds improved by going to UCLA either. No. So I don't really know what improved by going to UCLA outside of you miss Southern California and you're back closer to home. And I guess you got to win there because SoCal is lovely. But yeah, I don't think he made out the way that he thought, or the people who were really pulling the strings behind the scenes, however much credit you want to give to him or to Daddy or to his agent or whatever. The talking will eventually be done by his play out on the field. And I am not somebody who typically watches a ton of UCLA football. I mean, if they're good and they're competitive and they're in a big-time game, I'll watch it. But there will be a lot more eyes, I think, on UCLA football to say the least, at least early on, kind of like Colorado. Like, let's see how interesting this is early on. Those first few weeks, I think a lot of people will be watching the Bruins that otherwise wouldn't have been. So we'll see if he can take advantage of that, or if this is going to be more of a flame-out story.
And he opens up with Utah. That's his opening game, so that'll be of interest because of the connection Utah being in the Big 12. BYU, there's no question they're on the rise. They've taken advantage of moving into the Big 12. We know their basketball team has done really well, and that is a separate story that's been covered too. But Harrison Taggart, now they've got really good depth at linebacker, but Harrison Taggart has entered the portal after 1 year. They do have others there, and maybe this is because it's a great room, the linebacker position. Also, Keelan Marion, wide receiver. This one here was a surprise to a lot of players, a lot of people at BYU who cover them. I think that he is going to be offered whatever he wants, and I think there's a lot of big boy schools. Not that BYU isn't, but this one here, I think both of them kind of stunned BYU, who's been on a red hot streak because of what's happened with their basketball team and also the football team in pretty good spots.
Yeah, Keelan Marion has a lot of offers already because he's a really good returner as well. I think that's why Texas is in on him. They're looking for a kick returner. Obviously, having lost both of their guys who were kind of that to graduation this last year, so Texas went and got their tight end. Now they're looking for their kick returner. Maybe it is him, but I know that I've already read he's got calls and offers from about 12 places.
Yeah, I mean, who was the first name? Not Keelan Marion.
Taggart.
I mean, he was an Oregon guy to begin with, so this is another transfer for him. But I think it'd be hilarious if Baylor went and signed Keelan Marion and brought him in, or Taggart for that matter.
Traded him for Rob Wright.
Which is all just so stupid at this point. I can't even imagine having spent the time that so many people have spent on that story. I can't even imagine. I had to mute like all of the Baylor BYU discussion on my timeline because it just became too much. But it was funny to see Jake Hatch, who covers BYU, insinuate through a GIF that the reason those guys jumped in the portal was because of money. Well, was that not the entire conversation surrounding Rob Wright? And it's like, no. And I'm not going to get back into it because, like I said, I'm over seeing all of it. But it's just like, oh, yeah, it is money. That's like 99% of portal moves are money, not culture, not this or not that. It's money. So, yeah, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And that comes into play. Now, the other stuff does too, but it was just funny to see that after the conversation of the last 2 weeks being about Rob Wright and money. It's like, why did they enter the portal? Because of money.
Yep.
So,
no, you're
you
right.
know, it's just like, let's just call it what it is. I don't know why certain fan bases, when it's their turn, like shrink at the idea of it being money driven. When
it's not a one-way street.
So when it so clearly is. So, yeah, it's not a one-way street. And again, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So I think Keelan Marion, certainly when Texas is calling, among others, he was clearly, his DMs were getting hit up, or his agent's DMs or whoever. No one's ever safe and no one's ever under lock and key. So, yeah, it does sound like they got some attention and they're going to go take advantage of that. And, you know, I don't blame them one bit.
By the way, I talked to Jake Hatch on the way here to the studio, and we kind of went back and forth on that. And I asked Hans Olsen if he could be available today. Haven't heard back from him. He's got some things going on, but maybe get his opinion on it. But here's the thing about Marion. 24 catches, under 350 yards, and 1 touchdown. He had about 14 yards or so, 12 or 14 yards per punt return.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's why people want it.
Yeah, he had 10 punt returns for 100. No, excuse me. I'm sorry. He didn't even have punt returns from what I can tell last year. He had kick returns. And 2 of them he ran back for touchdowns. So there's the weapon there in special teams.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going to happen, but I thought I saw the same type of back and forth. I tried to get off the grid, believe it or not, as much as I could for the last 3 or 4 days, but I did see a little bit. Wait a minute. Now, what are we doing here? What's happening? Because the portal swings, the door can swing both ways.
Yeah, and that's just the way it works across the board. So it's not really a statement on anybody. That's just an example that we've seen in our face for like the last, 3 weeks, basically. So just with that conversation never ending seemingly, to the point of, I've barely been on social media either. It's just kind of funny to see it go the other way. Nothing against BYU, but that's just the way that it works. So we'll see where those guys land. But obviously when there's already a market as quickly as there's one for Marion seemingly, then yeah, he was probably getting some people saying, hey, over here. And you know what? Texas can always use more. I mean, they can always go and get more. I mean, they did that last year. They're going to do that every offseason. They're always going to be very successful in getting big-time players, even if their situations are already pretty good.
They have the tight end that they got from, Cal? They picked up the defensive lineman from Maryland. They'll add more. They'll get more.
Got a new kicker?
Got a new kicker who's a Shipley. Who's like the number 1 kicker in the portal. So the rich get richer in certain ways. Okay. Very rarely do they have to worry about them losing somebody. They losing somebody because they can turn around and fill it pretty quickly.
I have to before we move on to the next story. No, I don't have any breaking news. I have a question.
All right, go ahead.
You wrote something on the rundown here after Keelan Marion. You have a note that says "make quip about Rob Wright." On
you want me to do that?
No. You already made your quip. But you had a note to make a quip, and that's usually something that's reserved for like politicians when they've got like a teleprompter, and it's like, I'm happy to be here in the great state of Kentucky. And you know what we don't like in Kentucky? We don't like Tennessee, do we?
Yeah.
Like those kind of things. So like the audience goes nuts.
I did that. Craig's already brought it up. I said, let's just have fun with that. And it is fun. If Marion ends up at Baylor, I don't know if they're even in the mix. I did see that. I think it was him that tweeted that he got an offer. So that would be interesting to see that go back and forth.
A couple. I think Baylor offered there's a kid from San Jose State, not San Diego State, San Jose State, that's gotten a bunch of offers, and I think Baylor's one of them too.
By the way, who would you say is the NIL/transfer portal poster boy?
I mean,
who is the NIL transfer portal poster boy in college football over the last – Garrett, I'll give you the first shot. Over the last 4 years or so since it's begun.
I mean, you can make a few different cases. I would say Rashada's got to be up there.
Well, speaking of him.
It's Nico right now, though.
No, right now.
Yeah.
But Rashada is in the portal yet again. Apparently will visit North Carolina. This according to John Talty and also Chris Hummer from 247 Sports, CBS Sports. He's in the portal again. So let's go over this with him. He committed to Miami, flipped to Florida. We know the story there. That's still maybe a lawsuit out there. Then went to Arizona State, then went to Georgia. Now it's to be determined. His first year at ASU, he was 44 of 82 passing, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks, 485 yards. And this was a 5-star player, correct, coming out of high school, which he also went to 3 different, I think, high schools. So listen, this is the way it is. But he now is in the portal. So if it's not Nico now, because of his value, but Jaden Rashada is back in the portal.
Jaden Rashada needs to go somewhere where he can play. I mean, he hasn't played in what's going to be 3 seasons now. You know, if he goes to North Carolina, they just signed Gio Lopez, so I know that that they're maybe going to have a competition here. But Jaden Rashada has been all hat and no cattle. And look, the situation that happened to him in Gainesville certainly wasn't a good one. And they missed their payment, but also when you have that situation and then you go to Arizona State and then he left because he got beat out by Sam Levitt is why he left. And then he goes to Georgia and he got beat out by 2 different guys there. So right now, this guy hasn't shown me that he can win a job yet. So if I'm him, I'm going somewhere where I know that I maybe don't have to beat somebody out.
Yeah, the UNC visit is interesting in light of the Gio Lopez news. But I guess, you're trying to just turn over every rock if you're Belichick and do what's best for the program. Ultimately, I'd be hesitant to bring him in, especially if I feel like I've already got a guy. But I just feel like this is somebody that we need to stop talking about until he actually does something at this point. I mean, I understand why we're talking about him. I think it's a valid headline, but I think beyond this point, when we discuss whoever he does choose, if that's North Carolina, if there's somebody else, I say there's a moratorium on talking about him unless there's a valid reason to talk about him, because his entire college career has been not about play, but about where he's going next, and then where he's going again, and now where he's going again. And it's I don't know if you have the latest update on Micah Hudson. I saw right before I walked in here.
No, I don't. Go ahead.
But I'm going to throw him in that category as well. And just anybody like that you want to chat. Is there anybody else that's like the NIL face that hasn't done anything that is just, but it's been covered like they've won the Heisman 3 times? Then feel free to add their names to the let's put a moratorium on talking about them until there's reason to talk about them when they settle in. But the latest update on Micah Hudson that I saw just a few moments before I walked in was that it looks like now Pete Nakos and Steve Wiltfong, I believe, over at On3 have put in a prediction for him to return to Texas Tech. So when we left last week, it looked like that was maybe not as likely. When we started the week, it looked like that was probably going to be where he did go. By the end of the week, he wasn't going to probably go back there. Now a new week has started, and we're back where we started last week. So it appears, based on their intel, that he's going back to Lubbock. And so that's the latest on Micah Hudson.
Not a surprise. I do think it was Katie Rader. I believe it was Katie Rader, who, of course, we got a great contingent of Texas Tech and a lot of fans throughout, not just the Big 12, but around the country, that said that we don't want him anymore. Not we. That's Joey McGuire's decision and others at the Tech coaching staff. But I can see why you wouldn't want him back. And then again, maybe there's just still that original connection when he left Lake Belton High School.
I didn't feel like I saw that very often early on. I felt like, especially in the throes of just being able to celebrate all of their NIL and transfer portal success and whatnot, of like, yeah, let's throw another cherry on top of the cake, right? And let's bring back the 5-star and hopefully squeeze that juice out of him. And I totally get that, of like, the more the merrier. Like, let's get as many talents as we possibly can. But then it did feel like there was a bit of a shift in the wind. And I noticed more and more Texas Tech fans who are like, can we just move on already? Like, can we just detach and roll with who we got? And I think today when I saw that report, even though it was still somewhat fresh, I saw more immediate responses that were like, we just don't, than I had seen in any other report about him. So I agree. If I'm in the spot of Texas Tech fans, I mean, I'm certainly open-minded enough to welcome him back. But, like, man, if the first sight of him sneezing wrong, it's like, done. Like, you got to get out of here, pal. Like, there's no more because there's too much of this dancing back and forth. So it's put up or shut up time for him. It has to be. But it does look like it's going to be Joey McGuire and company that get another crack at trying to, maximize that talent. So not official, but when those two guys are putting it out there, it also leads me to believe what kind of market is there even for him at this point, right? Mm-hmm. Don't know, but that's the latest on Micah Hudson. So I'd throw him into that Rashada camp as well of like, dude, once you land wherever you land, go perform, and then we'll talk about you because that's why we should be talking about you.
Here's one other thing I want to say about Rashada. And if this was your child, and it's not, but if this was your child, it doesn't mean that eventually you find the right place. He started his high school career at Liberty High School in Brentwood. He then went to IMG Academy. A lot of kids do that. He then went back to California, I think, before he ever played at IMG, and went to Pittsburgh High School there. Now, as I mentioned, committed to Miami, then to Florida, went to ASU, went to Georgia, and now determined on where he ends. I wish him the best. There's probably some that probably could care less. And Craig, I get what you're saying. And, oh, by the way, any portal news that we have is brought to you by GXG Elite. We appreciate them and their support.
I think, though, it's important for guys to know that, like, you have to win jobs and you have to play. So go somewhere and win a job and play. And earning a job is something you're going to have to do every single season. You don't just get to be a starter and then it's yours de facto. You have to keep earning that. And I think that, one of the things I think we're going to see come out of this is there's just going to be like if you've been to, 3 high schools and 3 colleges already, your opportunities will dry up just because there's going to be so many people out there, they're like, look, do you really want to be here, or do you really want to do this, or is this? And I kind of feel this about Jaden Rashada. Like, do you really want to do this anymore, or do you just feel like this is what you have to do?
Right.
And that's where I feel like he is. I think that's something when you see these guys who transfer all the time and they're going like, one of the things that's fascinating. Pierre and I were talking on Triple Option earlier about Anthony Edwards. Like, why Anthony Edwards is so damn good? He loves it. He loves it.
You're talking about the Timberwolves basketball player?
Like he loves it. Do you know why Brady was so good? Because he loves it. Tiger Woods loves it. Rory, like those guys love it. Now, they do battle with is this all I am, right? Because we all do as human beings. But to be successful, especially now where there's so much money involved in college athletics, if you don't love it, go make your money doing something else. And I know that you say, well, I can make so much money doing this right now, and I don't have to worry. But if you keep changing your mind, the money's going to keep getting smaller and smaller wherever you go. So you better love it. And I don't know if he does.
I don't know if they do, but both those guys have made well into the 6 figures at this point and have done all of nothing at the college level. So I think you're going to squeeze that till you have no more juice left potentially, but it could be all the moving around and all of that uncertainty because they don't love it. I definitely think there's cases of that. Like I remember Jermichael Hasty at Baylor, running back. His favorite sport was basketball, but he just wasn't ever going to be a pro basketball player. So what did he do? He played football, didn't even particularly love it really. He much preferred basketball, but just so happened God gifted him to be a football player and give him enough tools to actually go play in the NFL for a handful of years, get vested, and make several hundred thousands, if not probably millions at this point. Not huge, crazy NFL money, but way better than your average Joe on the streets making. And so I think he's just grinding. Like, you got to love it to some level.
I think he loves the work.
I think he loves the work. He's got to love it to some level, but I think you're right. There are other guys that don't, and I think that will get cleared out in college ball. Like, if you're not true to the game, so to speak, then eventually that will get sniffed out, I think, especially in this era. So, yeah, when teams can move on from you and you don't just have this rock solid spot, if you just kind of rest on your laurels or whatever, you can be moved on from, just like you can move on from them. And I don't know what case it is in the case of Hudson or Rashada or any other of the other poster guys for that, but I think it's a reasonable question to ask at this point. Yeah. So I guess we'll see. If we get the same story heading around next year, I think that'll tell you everything, because man, that's all the story's been at this point.
And this is what I was bringing up about this. Is he learning anything along the way? It's his life, it's his career, or whatever's left of it. He can still end up all of a sudden going to wherever he goes and ends up playing, has a great career, and he's maybe who everyone thought he was coming out of high school, all 2 or 3 of them. And this is not to say, but is he learning anything during the prime of his athletic life right now? That's the part that I hope in the end he has that chance, but his time is running out. Missouri picked up defensive line transfer Eddie Kelly. Former Missouri edge player Eddie Kelly is committed to West Virginia. Nice pickup for Rich Rodriguez and also the Mountaineers.
Yeah, West Virginia's cleaning up in the transfer portal on both sides. They got a really good basketball player as well.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime you get a defensive lineman like this, and from an SEC school, and nice pickup, and Rich Rod continues to build that team.
All right, he was at Georgia Tech, then he went to Missouri, and now he is at West Virginia. He started his career, at South Florida. So
where's he been? You said like 5 different reds, 4 schools.
Prior to this, he was at Georgia Tech. He was for example, he was in Missouri. Prior to that, he was at Georgia Tech, started his career at South Florida. So he's on team number 4.
Yeah.
And in the end, you start to wonder, what is the average? And I think it's pretty much almost, even those who stay and play 4 years or 3 or whatever, 5, 8, you wonder what the average is of everybody, whether they're in the portal or not. It's got to be at least 2.5 to 3 teams. 2.5 to 3 teams. But a nice pickup. Rich Rodriguez continues to try to completely revamp that particular roster. And then there's Jordan Seaton. Great young man as an offensive lineman at Deion Sanders in Colorado. Here's a quote from him. "Sports crazy now. Can't even build a true brotherhood anymore. Too much I and me." Now listen, he got his money, but he's at Colorado. But here's somebody that's in the middle of all this and also seeing what it does or doesn't do. And that's a quote from him. That, I think, Garrett, I may have sent that to you late Friday or early on Saturday.
Well, I mean, it's good to see that. I think, though, that the intersection of the two is important. I've talked about it a lot where, look, if you are going to make a bunch of money in a spot, the money's about the other thing is the money's about the same for all these guys everywhere. You're not going to, and I get it. The difference between 2 million and 4 million that's doubling it. So that's rare, though, that you're going to get your salary doubled, in this transfer portal. So if you're going to get your salary up by 50 grand, okay, is that place as good for you as this one is? And how can you really get better if you keep moving around? Look, Jordan Seaton's the best offensive lineman they have. They just lost, a Big 12 first team all freshman team center to the portal. I think that's probably what he's responding to. But yeah, I'm all here with Jordan Seaton. Look, get your money at a place that you like and stay there.
At the same, go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, it was his teammate at IMG, and then his teammate at Colorado, Cash Cleveland, entered the portal late last week, and that's what he's responding to. That's the context to that. But I guess you can take it as well on a grander comment on the state of college football. But yeah, that was after his high school and then college buddy jumped in the portal. He's. I mean, the statement remains the same in general, just about the sport, because it is what it is. I mean, that's what it is. It's a sport that's really hard to just form a team and keep that team together the way that you could back in the day. Now, part of the reason that happened the way they did back in the day is because there were rules forcing you in a situation where you could not leave without sacrificing a year of eligibility. So most guys didn't do that, and you didn't have people constantly tampering with you no matter when, no matter what time of day, no matter what time of year. So, I think we're all very well aware of how crazy it is, but we keep getting constant reminders of it, and nothing ever seems to change. Although I know there's apparently smart people trying to work out a solution, but the more the days pass, the more just crazier and uncertain and less able you are to actually sit there and know who's on your team or know if you're going to be teammates for more than a year at this point. So if it's bothering players, then it's really hitting the core. And we know it's been bothering coaches, but to see a player actually talk about it is refreshing and good to know that it's not just the media and the fans pulling their hair out of the coaches. It's those involved in just trying to put a good team together as well.
But so you have him saying that, and yet after their spring, whatever it was called for Colorado, here's Deion Sanders. Garrett, is this audio or?
Yeah, it's the video.
Here's the video of Deion following the scrimmage game and what he now will look for moving forward.
Let's start. One tremendous defensive tackle, another linebacker or two, two safeties, probably three corners, one receiver that's a grown man, that's a dog, couple running backs, tight end, maybe a guard, tackle, maybe two centers. Thank you.
I don't know if he said long snapper. I'm not sure what he missed, but there was Deion talking about what they want. So Seton, of course, is saying that because he lost a teammate, as Craig, you mentioned, a high school teammate too. And yet the hamster wheel continues. And there was Deion asking for what he wanted. That's a pretty large list. And as he said before, my DMs are open. You know where to find me.
So how could you possibly project them next year?
Yeah.
If they need all that talent, and I know some of it's depth, but how
starting and backup center.
Yeah, how could you even possibly have a good feel for what they look like right now, much less every other team in the country? That's the thing. I know not everybody has a grocery list that long, but that's the thing about projecting any of this now is you used to be able to do that. Now, look, if that's just the sacrifice you make is you can't project as well at post-spring ball, that's fine for guys that have their freedom the way they should legally and should have always had it. But I do think when you talk about if you want to read the Seton comment a certain type of way and just read it as an overall statement on the game, and then you hear Deion talk about after spring ball, they need 20 players, then it's crazy. You really can't put your arms around anything. And talk about why is spring ball more meaningless? Well, they just went through an entire spring ball and they need 20 guys still. So spring ball didn't do what it used to do back in the day when you're like, hey, I feel pretty good. We maybe need a guy to emerge at receiver, but outside of that, I feel pretty good about the team. Now it's spring ball wraps up and you're like, yeah, we need carrots and cucumbers and we need some cookies and we need
radishes.
We need some bread. We need some gummies. We need, you just go on and on. Your shopping list is as long as ever. So yeah, that's why spring ball partially doesn't mean as much anymore because the team that was out there is supposed to be Colorado is clearly incomplete and they're definitely not alone in that. So yeah, it's crazy.
And I think he was being honest. I think he wasn't just saying those names because that's what he feels like they need, as you said, whether it's for depth or also for when you need two centers, that's usually a starter and also your backup.
Well, to the point of seeing that's spring ball, you're building a team. Well, you're only building part of a team now because a whole other half of the team's going to be coming in this summer. So you'll have your 2-3 months to try and put that together, but it's definitely not the same as when you were in the locker room with the guy for 3-4 years at a time, or you were all around your freshman class when y'all rolled in and y'all grew up together. And yeah, there were departures from time to time, but not nearly the level of now where it's guys either jumping in for money, jumping in for opportunity, or coaches pushing them into the pit and saying, we think it'd be better if you go see other people. So there's various reasons as to why, but yeah, teams aren't what they used to be because it's far more of a rented team than it ever was before.
All right, a couple more things. Speaking of Colorado, they, of course, retired the numbers of Shedeur and Travis Hunter, but also Deion saying we've waited too long. Deion, Colorado waited too long. Of course, Bill McCartney just passed away in early January. A statue will be of Bill McCartney outside of Folsom Field, led Colorado to three Big 8 titles, and also the 1990 National Championship. That's not just 3 Big 8 titles. They won the Big 12 title in 2000 when they basically humbled Nebraska forever and then beat Texas in the Big 12 championship game.
You know what?
2001, excuse me.
I've gleaned off of Colorado's administration the last couple weeks is that they are not nostalgic. When they really aren't. So, Dion decides we're going to retire Travis and Shedur's numbers. And then all these players and alums and all this who are nostalgic are like, hey, all right, fine, whatever. What about all these guys? And then, they're mad at Dion for a second. He's like, man, I just got here. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, what happened during you waited 23 years for
all
Rashawn
this time?
Salam?
But yeah, I think they're there, and I think if this has ever been brought up, they're like, we don't live.
We'll
in the
get
past.
to it. We'll get.
You're
to
not
it.
saying Bill McCartney won a Big 12 title, are you?
Oh no, you're right. That's right. That was with was that
Gary
with
Barnett?
Yeah, the team in 2001.
Bill McCartney was gone by the mid 90s,
Yeah,
so
that's
he
right.
didn't win a Big 12 title.
That's right.
But
Big 12 didn't start till 96, so you're right.
Yeah, so he wasn't there for that. It was Gary Barnett. But regardless, I think it's clearly overdue. I think the best side effect or repercussions from whatever, public outcry or backlash from former players or fans or media over the decision about Travis Hunter and Shedeur getting their numbers retired at least led to this. Them doing some things they should have done a long time ago, honoring people they should have honored years ago. That's the best part of that entire story. I still don't agree with the timing, and it's fine. It's not anything that's going to keep me up at night. It doesn't make me feel a certain type of way personally towards Dion or anybody like that. I wouldn't have done it as quickly as they did it. I think you can let it breathe a little bit, but I also think Dion, the politician that he is, found a way to flip it on its head. And so now they're like, well, yeah, but what about Colorado? And all of the guys you're getting mad at me. And I said this last week. It's not his fault that all these guys weren't in the Hall of Fame. He wasn't around for them. He wasn't even close to being around for Cordell Stewart. So what does he have to do with Cordell Stewart not getting in? You shouldn't be pissed at him. You should be pissed at Colorado. So that's eventually where that anger went, and rightfully so. But yeah, I don't agree with the timing of it. They did it. It's done with. They'll move on from it, and we'll see how many other numbers get retired under him, and if they happen as quickly as they happen for his two crown jewels. But it did at least, lead to some other discussion about why Colorado administration and all the other previous staffs just sat on their hands when it came to honoring legends. So they've got some work to do. This is a nice start. Next up should be Cordell Stewart and whoever else, all the other names that were mentioned last week. Line them up and get them in order to get their just due as well. And so if anything positive came out of that, then it was this right here.
All right. Now, Matt Rule. Oh, boy. So Matt Rule was, first of all, you were 7-6 last year. And you know how much I like Matt Rule. He might even be a guest on the show at any moment sometime in the next few days. Maybe not. But Matt Rule was discussing the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the power schools. And, of course, the Big Ten and the SEC are who they are. He was asked about his recruiting approach. There are a lot of kids I would love to recruit that have committed to a Big 12 school or somewhere else like that. Come to camp. If you want to play in the Big 12 or the Big 10, I got it. But make no mistake, there's a big difference. The Big 12 is going to go nuts now. I know that, which is why we're talking about it. I'm going to be on X and all that stuff, but it's reality. Big 10 and SEC, especially moving forward, are going to be here higher, he put his hands in the air, than everyone else. Now, what he's saying in some ways is correct. They open up with Cincinnati in August, a Big 12 school. He is maybe, I don't know, because I'm trying to get him on that are they losing their edge when it comes to the schools or the players in his own state? Nebraska doesn't produce a lot of really good college players, but enough. I mean, it's not like it's barren. So this right here was interesting. Pete Mundo put this out on Heartland Sports. What he is saying, though, is yes, there's a separation. No one is saying that there's not, but this right here might be a little fodder.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think the Big Ten has less of a stranglehold on this than the SEC does, and even now, I think we've seen the SEC, come back to the pack a little bit because of the portal and NIL, and the fact that the fact that you have guys going 3 and 4 places, and a lot of those guys would have just sat on SEC rosters as depth pieces for years, or Big Ten rosters as depth pieces for years in the past. In his assessment, it is different. And look, last year, if I was playing and coaching in the Big Ten, I would have felt it was a lot different, considering they had 4 playoff teams there. When you have Penn State's and Oregon's and hell, Indiana, a team that's been nothing for a long time, was one of the toughest beats in the country, no matter, who was playing them really. So,
and the national champion back to back.
And the Ohio State and Michigan. So I don't know, man. I mean, he might be right, but I do think that and part of it was, and I know we're probably going to have to get this later, but one of those things about the formatting of the playoff is that they're like, oh, well, we're going to base it on past year's performance in the playoffs. I don't think anything is more evident now than last year means nothing to this year than with the portal and the way rosters change. It is less relevant than it's ever been.
Greg, anything on that?
I mean, I'm not going to make too much of a deal about it. I mean, talking about the Big 12 was basically like getting a stick and hitting a fire ant pile. Everybody comes scurrying out and gets super offended and defensive because of just how things have played out over the last few years. And so I understand that, and he knew that. That's why he made the comment. He said, I know they're going to get upset, and a lot of people took that some kind of way. I mean, Iowa State's been having some recruiting success in the state of Nebraska. I was listening to a Cyclone Fanatic. Those guys were talking about
Williams and Hassel. Yeah.
Williams and Bloom, I think, were talking about it. So that's where I got the insight that I guess Iowa State's been making some good inroads there and picking up some key players. And so that's probably rubbing him a long way, rubbing him the wrong way. And I do think there is something to the Big Ten's a different animal, but I think I'd rather hear that from Ohio State or Oregon or the teams, Michigan, that actually win stuff. Right now, Nebraska historically is still, one of the top teams of all time, but they haven't been that in a long time. So you can see why people are like, y'all are talking S, you guys, right now, when you've done little to nothing in the last several years. I mean, making bowl games has been a challenge, and you're talking about how you're basically talking as though you're Michigan and Ohio State and these teams that have had super success. So I think you can take it that way, and it would certainly not come across well, but he knew it when he said it, that it was going to rub people the wrong way. I see where he's coming from. I also know he's probably got, $30 million more to play with on his roster every year than most of the schools in the Big 12. So hand him that and then see what he can do with that. It's you've got such great advantages. You should be better off. You should be. You've got everything else at your advantage. So you should be better off than a lot of the Big 12 schools. You should have more success, but it's questionable whether you really even are. So I can understand why somebody would look at the Big Ten logo and be wowed by that. But if it's not really that big of a deal to you and you don't get all freaked out by all this crazy conference pride that's taken over the sport the last few years, then yeah, Iowa State might be a better option these days than Nebraska. So he's got to kind of protect his backyard, and he's a little defensive. And I think there's an element of truth that it's a different game because they make a lot more money. But outside of that, I don't think the competition is drastically different at this point.
You know what I want to see? I want to see the mid-level teams in the Big Ten and the SEC who get all this money go actually carry the banner of their own conference and not ride the coattails.
Well, that's the thing is you're talking about Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, and then in any given year you might throw in Indiana. Michigan State's had their successes. They've made the playoff, but it's not all at one time. And yeah, it's from teams that aren't even doing anything substantial. So yeah, people are going to go, why are you talking trash? What gives you the right? Just because you won titles 30 years ago doesn't mean that you get to act like you're the Buckeyes or the Wolverines and you've been doing that lately. So, he knew what he said was going to get people riled up, and clearly it did. But I think people on the other side have every reason to respond in kind and say, man, you don't really need to be the one talking, even if there is a valid point. And you're probably sitting there with your feathers ruffled a little bit because there's others that are having success in your backyard.
He basically admitted, I know what's going to happen. They're going to get on X, et cetera. And it happened, but go win. Not this is his third year, right? I should know. Bad year. Then a bowl game, go 7-6. And then the third year is usually when his teams take another little jump, pretty good jump, but we'll see.
I just think if you're going to prop yourself up with the conference card, you better have won it lately and not just been middle of the road and barely making bowl games.
All right, so let's have fun with this. All right, let's go Big 12.
And I think he is right. There's no doubt that there is a step above. There's the Big Ten and the SEC. Now, it's money, it's size of fan bases and things of that nature, history. But that doesn't make them every single year that they should have 8 playoff spots because of history, money, and crowd size versus actual production.
All right, so in the Big Ten, and we may not have time enough for this, but in the Big Ten, How many schools in the Big Ten in the last 10 years, and we might skip a beat here, have won a conference title? Not a division title, a conference title. Obviously, Ohio State and Michigan. When was the last time Penn State won a conference title?
I off the top of my head, I don't know. Michigan State would be the next one that comes to mind.
Michigan State, the year they beat Baylor in the Cotton Bowl?
I can just tell you, I pulled it up on you just pull these things up. Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State. That's the last 10 years.
Yep.
So Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Oregon, and Michigan State. There's been 5 teams in the last 10 years.
So if you're Nebraska, if you're Minnesota, if you're Wisconsin, I thought they might be a part of that list. They've been right there on the cusp. And then, of course, you added the new teams that might be, and that's the Oregon that you brought up that was a part of that list of the new ones inside the Big Ten.
Wisconsin had a run of winning like 3 out of 4, but it was over 10 years ago. As if you expanded it to 15, 20 years, then Wisconsin would find themselves in there, but nobody else would. It'd all be the same schools I just mentioned. So, yeah, it's been a handful of schools over the last 10 to 15 years that have won that conference. But, I mean, it's the offseason. Things like that are always going to get more play. Because it's a little controversial and you're kind of poking at other people. So I don't think anybody is surprised he got some backlash, much less Matt Rhule.
We'll have something a little bit later on. SMU with a cool little helmet coming up with their scrimmage this weekend. Might be a spring game. I'm not sure what to call it anymore. Plus the College Football Playoff Committee, they're going to meet, and the NCAA when it comes to rules, a lot of them on amateurism. All that and more. 365 Sports. Gary Ross. Take a bow, sir, running the mothership. Also, Andrew Valade is here to do what he does, including the polls. We'll get to those a little bit later on. He's also put them up in the chat room. Emery Winter will be dialing up and working on 365 Sports tonight, which is tonight at 10:30 on the CW. Ralph Rousseau, the Athletic, will join us at 4:30. We'll have Eric Sondheimer from LA Times on the journey of Nico Iamaleava, who he covered him back. He's covered high school football and sports in California for 50 years. And Mitch Light, MC Gusto, you better put up a super chat, sir, ma'am, him or her, because we have theathletic.com, their college baseball analyst, Mitch Light. He's next. This is 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. How? As you get older, usually it starts to turn a little bit when you get to maybe 40. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Maybe that's not you, and I hope it's not, but if it is, there are things that can be corrected if you raise your testosterone level. Dr. Kent Petty, contact him, PettyClinicLowT.com. Tell him some of your symptoms, but the bottom line is he's going to get you an appointment to get your blood work. He gets the results. That is like the evidence of game film when you play football. It's right there. Your testosterone level will pop up. He'll see what it looks like. Maybe it's slightly low and nothing really needed, or it is really low. 1 out of every 3 or 4 men can understand that. He can put you in I'll give you an option, put you in a program to increase your testosterone level so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
Boogie used to this.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
The Jeep Celebration event is on at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get the luxurious 2024 Jeep Grand Wagoneer with a huge $13,000 dealer discount plus 0% financing. Or take home a 2024 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, $15,000 off or 0% for 72 months. Plus, drive a 2025 Jeep Compass for just $25,900. Big savings, legendary Jeeps. Only at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Mitch Light, theathletic.com, joins us on 365 Sports. There he is. I'm David Smoak with Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, and we appreciate your time every afternoon between 3 and 6 with all the other things we do, including triple option 1 until 2. Mitch, thank you very much for your time. We're not going to break down like who has the best OPA and all that other stuff, but wanted to get, here we are. You're still a ways from when you have the conference tournament and eventually the regionals, super regionals, whatever. What, in your opinion, might be the biggest story or two in college baseball that's caught your attention up until now?
Yeah, so, well, good to be here, guys. I always love talking college baseball. And, we're about halfway, I guess 60% of the way through most conference schedules. So there's enough there to know, who's good, who's not good, who needs to make a late run, all that stuff. And I don't want to be boring with this answer, but I just think it's the SEC's dominance. You add the nation's best conference, you expand it by 2, and one of those teams is the clear-cut number 1 team in the country in Texas. And then you add the drama there that the coach of Texas, Jim Schlossnagle, happened to coach at the rival last year, Texas A&M, who got off to a horrendous start in conference play and now can't lose. So there's so much drama there. And then Oklahoma is having a solid season, definitely an NCAA tournament team. So, there's good storylines in the ACC and the Big 12, and then some intrigue with, the Big 10 expanding out west with UCLA and Oregon. They just had a big series. But again, hate to be boring, but it's got to be the SEC.
Now, the ACC is no slouch either. I mean, they've got 2 of the top 5 in Clemson and FSU. Now, FSU's history in the College World Series is as painful as this human beings can tolerate. Believe me, I know. But Clemson, is also legit. Who would you say of the ACC teams is the most likely to have that deep run, to be in that final series? Is it Clemson, because they are really, really good top to bottom?
Yeah, they are. And one thing I'll say about the ACC, that it is very, very good at the top. And that's never been an issue when you're comparing leagues. The problem, in my opinion, is the ACC is just bottom heavy too. There's just too many teams. The bottom of the ACC, there's too many easier wins to be had than the SEC. One team that, if we talked a couple of weeks ago, guys, I would not have mentioned as maybe the best team in the ACC is North Carolina, but they are playing really, really well. They had another big series when they swept Wake Forest a couple of weeks ago. Clemson is probably the best team. Their starting pitching hasn't been great for the most part, after their Friday night starter. Their bullpen has been very good, but they have this, it's catchy to call them cardiac Clemson, but it's true. They, under Eric Bakich the last couple of years, they find ways to win games. There's a belief system there. It's a very difficult place to play. Florida State's interesting. Obviously a great team this year. Did not play Virginia last weekend because of the tragedy that happened there. I meant to dig into this. I have not seen if they're making those games up. I can't imagine they will. It's very difficult to make up a weekend series in college baseball. But Florida State's starting pitching is outstanding.
Mitch, what have you seen as far as, you kind of touched on it there with the SEC, but the Jim Schlossnagle effect, at least early on? Texas is the top team in the country, so they're rolling. But what is it about what he's come in and done there to a program that already had massive amounts of success? But what has been your impressions of just his imprint so far in Texas? And what has the other effect been like, in your opinion, taking him out of the equation in College Station?
Yeah, it's weird. I'm love baseball, played baseball growing up, but I think we'd all admit, even those that love the sport, like, it's not like basketball where you can watch a system for the most part, or football, you run the, spread offense, 3-4 defense. Right. Like baseball, coaching matters, of course, but it seems to matter less unless you're talking about Jim Schlossnagle, because this is not the most talented Texas roster. Sure, they've got really good talent, but they lost Max Blue, their All-American outfielder. They've just done a masterful job pitching, and he brings over his pitching coach with him, and they have I wrote about this today. Their ERA in league play is like a run and a half better than any other team. That's just amazing that you lead the conference in league games by that much. So you look back at from TCU, he has won everywhere he's been, and the effect at Texas A&M. Things are a lot better now. Like if we would have been talking 3-4 weeks ago, you'd say, well, Michael Early was not ready for this job. How do you turn over such a program with so much talent and expectations to a guy who's never been a head coach? But they've clearly found something there. They stayed the course, which is a credit to that coaching staff. The thing about Texas A&M that you never really wanted to give up on them, even when they were 1-8 or I think they fell to 1-9 when that loss to Tennessee, is they were pitching well. Now, they haven't pitched as well during this winning streak, which is kind of funny, but they're hitting very, very well. So they look like a clear NCAA tournament team. And if Michael Early goes on to have a great career and they win SEC championships or whatever, we're going to forget about this start, but it was definitely one of the storylines halfway through the season, that how much of a disappointment they'd been after being the consensus preseason number one.
They lost a player or two early, Mitch, and then they had a couple who have also come back. How much did that give them some juice?
Well, Gavin Grahovic was the guy that was lost, and he was a third baseman. He was freshman of the year nationally last year, so that was huge. He's not back. Caden Sorrell's been an outfielder that came back. Was a little slow his first weekend, but then he really had a big weekend in their win against that doubleheader win against Tennessee, which really got them going. I think he hit 3 home runs in that doubleheader. So part of it was the juice, as you mentioned, of him coming back, and part of it was just guys playing better. I mean, baseball is a very cyclical, whatever you want to. You guys get hot, guys get cold, and when you got 9 guys in your lineup and 3 or 4 get hot at the right time, you can do some damage. And they went up to Fayetteville this weekend against a very, very good Arkansas pitching staff and won 2 games. That's the thing that really told me they were back. The Tennessee taking a doubleheader, that's really impressive. They come back, they beat South Carolina, who's not very good, but they had to rally to win 2 of those games. So you're like, okay, they beat a bad team. But going up to Fayetteville really showed you that this team, I don't know if they're back to preseason number 1 status, but they're back to being a top 25 caliber team, no doubt about it.
How much do you think that Kentucky, we'll just call it the Kentucky kerfuffle, on that maybe woke them up a little bit, because they had been kind of emotionless for a little while, and then anger is an interesting motivator, Mitch.
Yeah, I had not thought about that. That's a good point, though. And, referring to the Sunday game in College Station, where I guess Kentucky was chartering home. A lot of teams, Kentucky was flying commercial. A lot of teams charter, so they had to. There was a curfew, and Kentucky clearly was taking its time, stalling to try and get out of there with a win. And maybe those guys saw some fire from Michael Early that they hadn't seen before. Who knows? We see it in basketball when coaches get teed up. But yeah, that could have been it. Could be a coincidence, but I hadn't thought about that. But that's kind of after that, they lose 2 of 3 to a good but not great Kentucky team at home. You're really worried about this team. Then they go to Knoxville the next week. They get blown out on that Friday night, and then they win the doubleheader, and they've been off. They've been playing very well ever since.
Mitch, you got West Virginia on a crazy hot streak right now, and in the Big 12, just in general, there's Arizona, TCU, Kansas. I guess you maybe throw in the mix as well in terms of teams that are just kind of competing there near the top. How would you describe the league? How would you describe West Virginia and what they're doing right now, and just what stands out to you about the level of play and kind of the teams involved at the moment?
Yeah, it's a league without great teams. It's got good depth. They lose Texas, they lose Oklahoma. Two teams, Texas obviously is a premier program. Oklahoma competed for a national championship a couple years ago. West Virginia is an interesting team. They go with Steve Saban's the first-year coach. Gaudy record, 34-4, 13-3. They can really hit the ball. I think they got like 4 guys hitting over 350. Their pitching staff's good, but not great. Their schedule has not been very difficult. They played a ton of home games in the pre-conference. So that's why their RPI has taken a while to creep up. It's now it's now up to 14, so they're in good shape there. But for a while, they had a ton of wins, and their RPI wasn't very good. Kansas has been a streaky team. They go to TCU 2 weeks ago, and they get swept. They come home in the biggest Sunflower State showdown ever in baseball. They beat Kansas State. I think Arizona is really, really good. Got off to a slow start against a tough schedule. And TCU, kind of missed the tournament last year, which is rare for them. They'll be back. This is probably looking like a 5-bid league, maybe 6. But I think to answer your question, not great at the top, but also not bad at the bottom. Like I think the bottom of the Big 12 is a lot better than the bottom of the ACC.
You brought up the former Pac-12 schools in Oregon State. I don't know if you actually mentioned Washington State, but Oregon State, they've won national titles. So how much does that history and who they are, no matter where they are now in the conference or lack of it, make sure that they have continued to be able to win and make a difference in the top 25?
Yeah, they're a unique program. They did not, obviously, we know they did not get the bid to the Big Ten. Washington State gets invited to the Mountain West in baseball. Oregon State says, no thanks, we're good. They decided this year to play an independent schedule, which is very, very difficult to do in baseball. I think the last really good program to do it was maybe Miami in the late 90s. And they played a really good schedule. They played Irvine, who's good this year. They're going to Nebraska. I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but they played a really quality schedule, and they picked up a lot of wins. They play Oregon 4 times. So I think that was one of the storylines before the season. How could this program, this national program, navigate a independent schedule? They're in everyone's top 10 right now. I think they're one top 5. They've got a loaded roster. They haven't committed to anything beyond this year, but Mitch Cannon's a coach there. They've kind of said, we're going to do it this way this year, and we're going to see how the landscape unfolds. I'll be interested to see where's this program in 3, 4, 5 years when they're not in a power conference. Are they still going to be trying to do it on their own? Are they going to join the Mountain West and play a league schedule?
Vanderbilt is an interesting team to me, Mitch, as well. I mean, they're in the top 10. They've had success recently. They've moved up quite a bit in the last couple weeks. Do they have staying power, you think?
Yeah, I live here in Nashville. I was at all 3 games in the Georgia series. It was a big series for Vanderbilt. They pitched the ball extremely well. And if you follow this, Tim Corbin's team's typically pitching and defense. The national championship team in 2019, they hit the ball. J.J. Bleday, guys like that, Austin Martin, they hit the ball fine. But the last couple of years, and as the sport has turned to home runs, Vanderbilt has not. And they've just not had the power. That's kind of been their undoing. This team right now, some young guys are starting to hit the ball well. They had a freshman, Brody Johnson, who hit 2 3-run home runs on Friday night, hit 1 on Thursday. So that power is starting to come. But what they're doing is their rotation has been very, very good. And I think this is a team that's built for the postseason. If they can continue to play well in the regular season and stay home for the postseason, I think it's a team that can get to Omaha. If they have to go on the road and play at a small ballpark, it's home run friendly, they could be in trouble.
Mitch, I got to ask you about Texas Tech, because we got a lot of Red Raiders that check us out. I know we touched on the Big 12, but they're just sort of middle of the pack, and they've been one of those teams that's been the better programs in the league. Just your thoughts on them and just sort of where they are at the moment.
Yeah, I was just looking at some numbers today. This is a team that went to 7 straight regionals up until last year, and they went 12-17 in the league, and they're 12-23 overall. Really rough non-conference schedule. 8-10. They've played better in the league, but they're not pitching well. Their ERA in league games is about 7. And if you're like a Red Raider fan, you're hoping for a late run, even with that decent but not great record. They still have to play Arizona and West Virginia, 2 of the best teams in the league. So I don't want to boil it down. Like sometimes sports are pretty simple. The roster is just not as good as it was 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago when they were going to Omaha on a consistent basis. So I know it's going to be frustrating for a fan base that expected to play at home in the postseason and go to Omaha, but they have definitely fallen down that food chain a couple rungs last couple years.
Garrett, you say you have a super chat. I think that Mitch may have answered it before the chat, but go ahead and put it up.
Yeah, it's asking how many regional invites do you expect the Big 12 to get this year?
Okay, so let's go. West Virginia, Kansas, Arizona, and TCU are all in really good shape right now. So that's 4. Then you got Arizona and Kansas State. RPIs in the 40s there. Good league records. I think they can get 6. I don't think they'll get any more. Cincinnati, Baylor, both 8 and 10 in the league. RPIs aren't great there. So if I were a betting man, which I've been known to a little bit in the past, I would say 5, 6 if they're fortunate.
Will any one of them host?
Yeah, I think West Virginia is in position to host. Their RPI is 14 right now. And the committee, this isn't like a mandate, but, they like to spread the sport out geographically. And it's good for the sport when there's West Coast hosts, and West Virginia's not Northeast, but you guys know what I mean. It's not Southeast. So I think it's good for the sport if West Virginia can host. Now, they're not going to host if they truly don't deserve it, but if they're on the border, on the edge, I think they will. And Arizona's got a 16 RPI. 12-6. They've got some really good wins. TCU, they got swept at UCF last week, but their RPI is 15. They're 12-6. So I'd put the over under host at 1.5.
Mitch, what do you think of the evolution of baseball upcoming, the House settlement and the potential impacts there, roster limitations or roster expansion and the money? Like, how much are we seeing that already, the NIL factors coming into play, and how much more with the potential changes do you think baseball starts to look a little bit different?
Yeah, we got about 2 hours for this, guys. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I know, man. I know.
I wrote about this. I do a preseason at The Athletic. I do a preseason coaches roundtable, and those, if you subscribe, go check it out. It was published in February. The coaches really went in depth on this. I think it's going to vary from league to league. I think the SEC is going to be all in. They're going to, if it's 34, it's going to be the scholarship max. I think most of those teams are going to be fully funded. I would expect the top end of the ACC and the top end of the Big 12 to be the same. We're working on a story. One of my writers is working on a story about like the Big Ten's commitment. And I actually talked to Tim Corbin, Vanderbilt's coach, about that. Like, how important is it for the rest of the country to be committed? And he's like, it's just good for college baseball if all these schools are all in, but there's only so much money. Certain schools, we know football, men's basketball are king, but certain schools, especially in the Big Ten, hockey's more important than baseball. Wrestling might be more important. So I think it's going to vary league to league. It's going to vary school to school. I'm fascinated to know about this new clearinghouse for NIL. Like, are schools like Tennessee, LSU, some of the big, some of the schools with the big donor bases, are they still going to have the collectives that can go above and beyond the house settlement? So it's a really complex situation. Probably didn't answer it that great, but it's just, there's a lot of unknowns there, and it's going to affect college baseball a lot in the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah, so there's going to be some teams that I've seen projected have 30 scholarships in baseball. Hasn't that always been like a third of a scholarship across the board? 13 of them overall? I don't know the exact number.
It's been 11.7 for years,
okay,
and you can divvy it up how you want. Now, that's a little, there's certain schools that have in-state, like Georgia has the Hope Scholarship. If you have a 3.0 scholarship and you live in the state, you get free tuition at Georgia. Vanderbilt, Stanford, Duke, schools like that have great financial aid. So if you meet, some guys are on financial aid, not on baseball scholarship. So there's ways kind of around that. But now it's like you can if you want, you can fully fund all the way up to 34. And again, my understanding is most SEC schools are going to do that. And it's going to be really difficult for a program in other parts of the country and other leagues that don't do that to compete.
Mitch, nobody in the Big 12 from the time it opened in 96, even through all the changes, had ever won a national title other than UT. And, of course, UT has a chunk load of them. Arizona and Arizona State have a really good baseball history. Now, Arizona State doesn't have the Rick Mondays and Barry Bonds and, all the things that they had for many, many years. But do they give the Big 12 a chance with their history, tradition in baseball to get back in it?
Yeah, I think those were really good additions, really fine additions. And you mentioned Arizona State. They've kind of been not great the last 8 to 10 years, inconsistent, but going back to 70s and 80s, they were awesome. It was Arizona State, USC were kind of the power programs there. Arizona has been better than Arizona State of late. Won a national championship, I think, 10, 12 years ago. I forgot the year, maybe it was 2012. So I think those are really fine additions. Losing Texas and Oklahoma hurt, but I think bringing those two teams in and what kind of West Virginia's emergence, their commitment to baseball helps. Houston is a program new to the Big 12 that's struggled in recent years, but also has a decent baseball tradition. So I think this league has the ability to rival the ACC as the second best league in college baseball. It's not there right now, but they've got that potential.
All right, you have UC Irvine, who's got a nice history. We've got obvious teams like Troy, Coastal Carolina. We know they've made a run, Southern Miss and others. And we mentioned Oregon State. Is there somebody else that's not a part of a Power Four or even what could be considered like a Gonzaga in baseball? Is there somebody else who's been a nice surprise for you this year?
Yeah, Western Kentucky. They were I do a top 25 in the Athletic every week, and I had him number 25 last week, dropped out this week. Their coach, I forgot his first name, Radin, I believe his last name, longtime junior college coach in Iowa. One of those guys, just look up his Wikipedia page, won 90% of his games. And they just got a really good roster, very junior college heavy. They lead the nation, or they did last week. I'm sure they still do. They lead the nation in ERA. They can hit the ball well. They went on the road 2 weeks ago and swept Dallas Baptist, who's been a very good program. I think they're second in most NCAA tournament appearances in a row. I think they got 12 or 13. They came here to Nashville and lost to Vanderbilt in extra innings in a midweek game. That would have been a huge RPI boost. So I think they could be an at-large team if, let's say, Dallas Baptist wins the conference tournament. So they're kind of a fun team to watch from a program that has, we're typically not seeing in postseason play.
Last thing from me, Mitch, I was watching a game. It was Florida and golly, I forgot who they were playing. State? Yes. And neither
you didn't see much pitching. You didn't see much pitching, I'm guessing.
No. And they both were like 4-10 or 5-11 in the conference. What's happened to them?
Florida is more, Florida made the Final Four last year. I know it's not called. But they got off to a slow start. They were 13-7 in the league last year. They lose Jack Caglione. They've had some injuries on the pitching staff. Their offense just has not been nearly as good as expected. They're kind of fighting back, not to the degree that Texas A&M has, but Florida, I wouldn't be surprised if they played their way into a regional and got to the postseason. It's just their roster isn't as star-studded as it's been in the past. And again, those pitching injuries just hurt. Mississippi State fell off after their national championship. I was at the game. They won the national championship. It was like such a huge moment for the program. They did not make a regional the next 2 years. They made it last year. But they've struggled against the good teams they've played. Their pitching has not been good enough, as you saw in those games over the weekend. They gave up way too many runs late in games. So, the SEC is so good. If your talent falls off, you take a half a step back talent-wise. There's 2 or 3 teams that are going to pass you, and that's what happened to Mississippi State in the last few years.
Yeah, they also Wyatt Langford's now playing baseball when he's healthy for the Rangers, and obviously was an amazing player. Mitch, we'll be back in touch. We'd like to get you on again as we get closer to the start of conference tournaments and regional play. Thank you very much for being a part of it.
No problem. Enjoy it, guys. Take care.
Mitch Light, theathletic.com. And I got to give MC Gusto, who did give us a super chat. Appreciate MC. He kept on it. He kept wanting to know when we were going to talk Big 12 baseball. Well, Mitch said what he said about maybe 5, possibly 6 teams get in. And some of those teams have to get better. But appreciate it, MC, for your perseverance and resiliency, for keeping on me. And I have reached out to others that cover college baseball. Mitch, glad we got him. Good guest. Thank you very much for his time. All right, when we come back, Ralph Rousseau, theathletic.com. He's next. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club. I saw this. I got an email. I guess it was on Sunday. And they're going to have all sorts of special events coming up. Baylor has their football, kind of a community type event Saturday. And the Baylor Club will be open with all sorts of things that they're going to do while that practice and the events, et cetera, are going on. So a good chance, if you're there, to go and visit with somebody inside the Baylor Club about a membership. if you're interested. The Baylor Club, not only with what they bring to the table, which is phenomenal food, and they're coming off a huge weekend, with it being Easter weekend and much, much more, they also have different perks if you're a part of it because of Club Corps, golf courses, and much more that you could also be a part of if you are a part of the Baylor Club. The Baylor Club with general manager Mike Mosel had a huge weekend with Easter throughout the weekend, and now coming up that special community event inside McLean Stadium, the Baylor Club off I-35 in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We'll have Ralph Rousseau, athletic.com, in just a moment. Garrett, do you have the NBA draft, entering the draft news? Couple of players that, in fact, they played against each other. VJ Edgecombe from Baylor, and then also Cooper Flagg, who was phenomenal for Duke until they got knocked out. Both have declared today to be a part of the NBA draft. That's probably pick #1 on the right, maybe 4 or 5 at Edgecombe on the left.
Edgecombe could go even higher depending on the team that winds up in the lottery, but Cooper Flagg is probably going to be the #1 pick. And you know what? Good for America. You know, Europe's been fighting us off for too long on this. There's going to be a ton of Europeans in this draft too. But yeah, a Duke guy going #1 overall. There we go. That's America right there. But yeah, I
got to tell you, he's better than I thought he was.
Oh, yeah.
About mid to 2/3 of the way through the season. I didn't get to watch him, maybe a Carolina game or 1 or 2. But when I started to watch him, especially when you hit late February, I mean, the guy he's got the game. He's a good defensive player, but he also is a great passer. I really love his game. I hope he has a great career.
And reclassified too. I mean, so he's even younger than you think, and he's that good. So,
and then VJ at times had to carry Baylor. Couldn't do it all the time, but at times basically carried that team on his back. Just a wonderful young man too, like Cooper Flagg.
Y'all know I don't really, get too into college basketball these days. How does Rutgers have 2 top 5 picks and they were under 500 last year?
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm looking at the mock draft for, I guess, CBS Sports. Flagg's number 1, Edgecombe's number 3, but around them, Dylan Harper from
Tennessee,
Rutgers is the number 2 pick, and Ace Bailey from Rutgers is the number 4 pick.
Yeah.
And then you got Trey Johnson from Texas rounding out the top 5. Now, I know this isn't exact science or anything like that, but yeah, I just see 2 Rutgers players in the top 4 and go to look, and they were 15 and 17 and finished 11th in the Big Ten this past season. So I was just wondering if y'all had any insight onto how that happens, or if I'm just completely missing the ball on something here. But that just seems kind of odd to have 2 stars like that and not even be 500. I mean, at least it was one thing, miss the tournament, like be 500 at least. I mean, that's kind of crazy. So I'm sure I'm probably missing something there, but it's cool to see Edgecombe up near the top. I mean, for Scott Drew, he's going to be able to do something that they weren't able to do up until a few years ago, and that's just post another first-round draft pick. I mean, he had some guys that got drafted, but the stretch that they've been on of like, was it 4 or 5 consecutive years?
Keontae George,
4 or 5 consecutive years of the first-round pick, and a lot of lottery guys. That's cool. I know it doesn't necessarily make you successful on the court, as we just were discussing, but they've still been a pretty good team and left a little to be desired, I think, the last couple of years in terms of their tournament appearances. But he's churning out the pros right now, so that's why you saw that thrown around quite a bit when there was the right transfer was, I want to go play and get prepared for the NBA. It's like 5 straight years of like borderline or lottery guys. What are you talking about? But anyways, that's a old topic at this point.
By the way, Davion Mitchell now in Miami with the Heat has gone nuts. Well,
he's finally in a place where he
fits.
Where he's not, or the team's good, and all that. So yeah, he's doing well.
We're now joined by our good friend. There he is. How you been? Good to see you from theathletic.com. Ralph Rousseau joins us on 365 Sports. So tell me about how previous performance-based criteria could affect whatever the heck is going on with the college football playoff in the future.
So I don't think that's a fully baked idea yet, which is why my colleague and I, Chris Vanini, win our story today. And Chris did a lot of the heavy lifting on that one. Couldn't really get into the details. Essentially, there's a meeting, kind of a big college football playoff meeting this week. It's a regularly scheduled one that they usually have around this time of year. They dive into a whole bunch of, business for the year. But part of the thing they're also going to do here is talk about what the format's going to look like in 2026. They have to figure out if they're going to change the seating. And, sort of hanging over all this is this idea that the Big Ten and the SEC have been at least interested, very interested, maybe really want in some cases, depending on who you ask, automatic qualifying bids to the CFP going forward, to maybe expand it to 14, maybe 16, but probably 14, and create a system where they would have 4 bids. Big Ten and the ACC would have 2 each. And then 2 more would go to an at-large. That gives a pathway for Notre Dame. And another one obviously would be reserved for the group of 5 champion there. That is not set in stone. I think there are a lot of people, most everybody, who don't like that idea. So the idea of coming up with possibly some measurements that would create a pathway for automatic access, but isn't simply granted that access, right? Like, so you'd have to meet certain measurements. And again, I think what's going to happen at this meeting this week, among many other things, is they're going to present some models to the commissioners, which maybe are alternatives or present some alternatives to automatic qualifiers that would, again, check some boxes and take some of the subjectivity off of the plate of the selection committee. I know that I just threw a lot of stuff at you there, but that's what they're trying to work through, is if there maybe are some alternatives to automatic qualifying that every conference could earn.
And Ralph, I think I've asked you this before. I don't understand, like, especially if you're going to expand the playoff to 14 or 16, like you said, likely 14, what eventuality that they're afraid of that they would go, especially the two conferences, or the Big Ten, I guess, is the one who's really pushed for automatic qualifiers, where there's a world where they would go years without getting what they want.
Yeah, I think so. It's tied to two things. I think there is a certain amount of, I don't want to say distrust in the selection committee. I think there is skepticism that the selection committee can do what is essentially a very difficult job, right? It is very hard to piece these teams, to pull apart these teams and say, like, with all the various schedules, there is, very little interaction between, relatively speaking, interaction between these conferences. Now that these conferences are so big, it's just becoming really hard. You're giving the selection committee a really hard job. So is there a way to make that job a little less subjective and a little easier? And I think that there is some concern from the SEC and the Big Ten, which have these tough schedules, that those schedules are not being given enough deference. So I think that's part of it. The other part of it is, especially from the Big Ten standpoint, the SEC has some ideas on this too, is creating these automatic qualifiers also allows you to create some play-in games, which we've talked about before, that enhance your regular season. And also, if your teams are playing for those play-in games, it also keeps your 5th, 6th, 7th, maybe even 8th place team. It gives that team a chance, or a nominal chance, to make it into the playoff come November. So it's not just a matter of like, hey, they're going to get their 4 teams. Like, of course they're going to get their 3 to 4 teams. It's more of like, if you control the selection process and you have a definitive number, you can build out some things around that have to do with the regular season and your own postseason.
Ultimately, Ralph, how much say do people outside of Petiti and Sankey have in the end result of whatever direction they go?
Yeah, Chris and I wrote about this, I guess, about a month and a half ago, and I think the contract gives them a lot of leeway to push through what they want. It's no longer unanimity needed to change the format, right? So contractually, they seem to have a lot of power. I do think public perception, I think pushback from the other conferences, hey, like, none of us really want this. And it says that you have to, consult us and give us, a fair chance to voice our opinion, and you're completely ignoring our opinion here. I think there's, the potential blowback from, every conference. All these schools are in states that have senators, right? Like, and if North Carolina suddenly has all of its teams relegated to trying to get 2 playoff spots, that might tick off some people on Capitol Hill. So I do think that, like, this buildup of public pressure could matter. And I do also wonder if contractually, again, if they simply blow off their partner conferences here, if that does trigger some contractual avenues that could be challenged from these other conferences. So I guess my answer to that is I don't think it means nothing, but I also think that that the SEC and the Big Ten do have a lot of power here.
Yeah, that's I would love to be in those rooms. We've asked those who have been, whether ADs or presidents, because a lot of times it has nothing, commissioners, and you kind of get a different, it seems like that everyone else is just there, and the Big 12 or Big 10 and the SEC are going to make the decisions. And yet we had somebody on last week that mentioned something about, it was the new SMU, Damon Evans, who's now at SMU. He was at Maryland and Georgia.
Sure. Yeah.
And he kind of said that he never got the impression that those two conferences wanted to basically just blank on everybody else. I don't know if I believe that.
Well, I guess what I would say is I do think there is some recognition that collaboration and doing what's best for college football as a whole is the job here, is the task at hand. I think there is some acknowledgement that they need to be thinking beyond just their own kingdoms here, the SEC and the Big Ten kingdom. However, I think in the case of Greg Sankey, I think his open-mindedness to collaboration was damaged a lot after the last round, after we got to this point, right? The whole alliance, and it slowed down expansion. And I think the SEC and Greg and like in general felt like they had sort of been very collaborative and were giving up a lot or were accommodating the rest of the conferences a lot. And then all of a sudden they got pushed back on that. So I feel like from Greg's standpoint, as much as I think ultimately he would like to be collaborative, I think he might be a little less likely to be collaborative now than he was then. As for the Big Ten and Tony Petitti, I just don't know if Petitti walking into this situation after, relatively recently, only about a year, 2 years ago, I can't remember when he was even hired now. It's been relatively recently. Like, I don't know if he holds that same spirit of collaboration. And I think he is a disruptor by nature and looks at all of this stuff in college sports and says, well, I got a better idea. Why don't we do this? And why don't we do that? So I think from his standpoint, it's not so much a lack of collaboration or wanting to overrun everybody. I just think that he looks at it and says, I think there's a better way to trap this mouse.
I never thought about Greg Sankey and the alliance, the fly in the ointment that they were. I wonder if Jim Phillips still wakes up at night mad about getting snookered about that by the Big Ten.
Listen, I mean, I talk to a lot of people who point to that and, will really say like, hey, man, like in some ways, I understand the ACC and the Big 12 are at a disadvantage now. And the ACC especially, because it was the ACC, the Pac-12, the then Pac-12, which was, seems like a million years ago when George Kliavkoff was run the Pac-12 and Kevin Warren at the Big Ten sort of came together, formed this alliance. And really, like, if you think about it, if they hadn't been obstructionists then, maybe we would have a better outcome now. And you're right. I do think Jim Phillips especially probably has to think to himself, like, boy, how, like, if I didn't do that, then what would be the result now? Maybe I brought some of this upon myself.
Ralph, there's a couple of questions I want to get to. One more about just the way conferences are aligned because of all of what happened from the Texas OU, a story by Brett Zerneman, to USC, UCLA, and then everything else with the Big 12 adding, et cetera. There will be speculation. There are basically almost like ambulance chasers who want to report about realignment. And yet there's time. There's 3, 5, 7 years or whatever with time. When do you think any speculation about any changes, if at all, will be legitimate?
We always get the realignment on this show. We always get it's as reliable as
I don't see anything.
April showers.
Yeah, I don't see anything imminent. No, nothing imminent.
Nothing. No, and guys, I'm kidding with you. There's nothing imminent, and I do think, as a lot of people speculated, when the ACC reached that agreement with Clemson and Florida State to finally put down their weapons and settle the lawsuits, I think we're on about a 5-year timetable here, right? 2030, I think, was when the ACC sort of set up a situation where teams might be able to look at, maybe kind of getting out of that deal. So I would think, what's the timetable? That if you just look back on what we've gone through with conference realignment, usually it's about a year or two out of when the television deals end. Well, I think the Big 12, the Big 10's deal, I think, ends in 2030. The Big 12's, I think, is 2031 or 32. SEC is right around there. So I would think in 2028, 2029, probably 2028, we'd start hearing about, okay, what is the next iteration of this thing? And here's something I think I've told you guys, but I always try to stress to people. Just because what we have seen happen in conference realignment. I don't think what we have seen happen in conference realignment necessarily foretells the future about what we will see. I think that there's a lot of factors here that we don't know, including the state of the media business and cable and streaming and what ESPN looks like and what Fox looks like, that will influence what the next iteration of major college football looks like going forward. We've seen Super League proposals and all that stuff. So we have to be a little bit imaginative here. You might be looking at something that we can't even think up, and it doesn't really look like the traditional conference structure anymore.
Ralph, they are eliminating, because of the impending House settlement, 150 plus rules from the books that have to do with amateurism. I would make the suggestion that whatever iteration college sports governance takes in the next one, that on 150 overall might be the number of rules that you have, as opposed to 150 just about one thing, which has probably led us to this point that we are right now.
Yeah, without question. The NCAA rule book is going to be streamlined and deregulated, but honestly, like what they did today, and the NCAA came out with a little bit of announcement. They pressed a proposal. I won't bore you with too many of the details on that, but we all knew this was coming. It sets the stage for if and when, probably if, but probably when, as opposed to if, the settlement is approved by Judge Wilkin, maybe in the next few days, even possibly, they can transition to implementing the settlement rules into NCAA rules, which essentially means, just think of it from this way, guys. How many things in the NCAA rule book are you can't pay the players? Well, now you can. Now you can pay the athletes. So they have to eliminate a whole bunch of rules that say you can't pay the athletes. I mean, just that is just the start of it. So they redlined a whole bunch of stuff, and they need to get out ahead of this stuff because eventually the settlement is probably going to get approved. So today's move is pending settlement approval, but it just clears the way for implementation of the settlement through NCAA rules. And the NCAA itself is becoming a less influential organization, right? There's going to be a whole arm of enforcement of the settlement rules, the quote unquote salary cap, the rev share cap, roster limits, things along those lines, regulation about what NIL deals are approved. That's all going to be outside the NCAA. There's an enforcement arm that's essentially being built by the Power Four conferences.
Ralph Rousseau, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports. You're telling me people can get paid now? Like, there's no amateurism? Is
right here? Yeah, I mean, it's I know it's shocking that there's gambling in this establishment, right? I mean,
do you
all
realize,
these years, nobody was ever paid. No college athlete has ever been paid until now, right?
You and I are of the age, and I'm not trying to put you at my age because I'm older than everybody that's probably watching other than 5 people, but it was honestly something that I understood if it eventually changed, but I never thought I would see it in my lifetime. I never did. And I'm glad that it's here. The only problem is it's such a cluster blank that it's just hard to watch.
Yeah. Listen, we're not getting there smoothly. It would have been a little nicer if maybe the NCAA and the conferences and the people who lead college sports, I hate always putting it directly on this faceless bureaucracy of the NCAA. You know, the schools and the presidents and the ADs are just as much in charge. It would have been nice if at some point somebody got out in front of this, and maybe 10, 15 years ago when the O'Bannon case came down, somebody finally said, hey, if we don't do this ourselves, it's going to be forced upon us. But here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Last thing is we've mentioned the settlement. We've tried to not stay away from it because it's there. We know it's there and we know what it might do. What will still be a problem in college athletics, and let's say football for now, or men's basketball, what will still be a problem no matter if it's approved or not that will not be corrected?
Oh, I mean, dude, this is all and I don't, so I'm like, that sounds terribly skeptical of my part and pessimistic. What I mean by that is, and I've talked to people who are really in the weeds trying to figure this stuff out at the NCAA level, ADs. Once we get to the settlement and there are some rules in place, there is still going to be probably at least 2-3 years of trial and error of like, okay, we want to do this, but how exactly does that play out? Oh, we didn't really see that coming. Got to adjust that. Got to fine tune this. Like this is not an end point. This is not a solution. Okay, it's all good now. Everybody, puppies, rainbows, and sugarcane. We are sailing into a new era. With everything perfect. It is not the way. That is not the way that this is going to transpire. Like, it should be better, but we're still clunkily moving along this road to a better system, as opposed to like, we have not arrived at that better system. We're still going to kind of learn as we go how much of this system and how much of this settlement, stands the test of time and gets codified by legislation and gets challenged with more lawsuits. No, baby, we are far from the end of this. We are just, in some ways, we're just getting started, folks.
I would love to know by the end of all of this, when that is approved, and I'm not saying it's going to be approved. We don't know how much money the NCAA spent on legal issues.
Oh boy,
that it's not going to be as much as 2.4 billion or the billion, whatever that is, that's going to be the class action or whatever it is. But I'd just love to know. I mean, millions upon millions of dollars because they were stubborn.
Guys, if I was a better reporter, I would have this on the top of my head. But actually, I'll give you a little, like Steve Berkowitz from USA Today has done a great job over the years of tracking that number. Those numbers are available in way, shape, and it is hundreds of millions of dollars if you date back to like the O'Bannon case and other cases, the Alston case that went to the Supreme Court. The legal fees have been astronomical, basically to mostly come out on the losing end and have to concede on most of your points anyway.
Could have gotten out in like 1999 or 2000 for about $2,800 a month to start. Like, seriously, could have. If
definitely in the early 2000s. Yeah, definitely in the early 2000s, 2010s. I mean, again, not to go relitigate all this history. But there were off ramps here that the NCAA chose to pass and ended up driving right off the bridge.
Absolutely.
Right? Like last exit. Nope, we're going through here. And it ended up right in a ditch.
Ralph, we have a super chat that goes on during the show that sometimes it's its own show. But there are a lot of, they love college athletics. What will be first, a super conference or the next realignment?
A Super League, you mean?
Super League, yeah.
So I can't answer that because I actually think that's the question.
Yes,
I think it's not which is first. I think is it one or the other? Is it, do we continue this conference structure moving forward, or does the biggest brands within all these conferences, what a guy I like to talk to a lot. In fact, I think you've had him on as a guest, Bob Thompson. Former Fox executive who's really interesting in this space. I think the term he uses is the up and out, which is not necessarily adding to the conferences or throwing teams out of the conferences, is what happens when the biggest brands in the current conferences say, you know what, we see something more interesting than the Big Ten or the SEC, and we're going to band together and take all this, I don't know, private equity money. I kid around all the time, and I'm only half joking. In 5 years, all of this could be owned by the Saudis, right? So, and again, like, that's tongue in cheek, but there's a modicum of truth to tell people, like, there could be some enormous changes coming down the road that we might have a hard time grasping, like, what exactly is the catalyst for them, because we just don't see them coming, because maybe we're not media experts or we're not financial experts, and we don't know what global markets will do. God knows that's been hard to follow over the last couple of weeks. So there's a lot of stuff that could impact college sports that are not directly involved in college sports. So So Super League, conference realignment, I think the choice is an either or as opposed to which comes first.
Who is the greatest alum from Fordham University?
Vince Lombardi.
There you go. Mm-hmm. That's an easy one. Yep.
Of course.
I love the shirt.
Well, it's my alma mater. And if you want to go back a little further, this is I'm sure only you will remember. I think you got to be a pretty big baseball fan. The Fordham Flash, Frankie Frisch, Major League Baseball Hall of Famer from like 1930 something or other, a little before my time.
Well, it's great that Lombardi that wins. That will win because I'm old enough. And anyone, that's what they named the damn trophy after. So we know what Vince Lombardi means. Hey, man, Ralph, great stuff. Appreciate your time, man.
Thank you very much. Shout out to the 7 blocks of granite.
There we go.
There we go.
Fordham Rams. Ralph Russo with us, theathletic.com, and a very meaty segment with him. Very meaty segment with him. A lot of you in the chat room appreciate as you are following along. Some of you never do, but we appreciate those of you. And the questions. The Super Conference, we've mentioned that. The Premier League style. He mentioned that one day with the private equities, there might be some that feel pretty good about themselves because they're in a great position. It might be for the next several, but you never know how things change. And so thanks to Ralph. But the story about the college football playoff, which sometimes I get numb with that. I think we all do. The House settlement, we get numb with that, but it's coming at some point, one way or the other. But the fact that the amateurism, that book the NCAA has, which is insane, it's thicker than maybe the IRS rule book, is being trimmed. And thank God, because it was cumbersome. And now the rules they have, all of them are basically fragile anyway with all the lawsuits.
Yep, but again, I'll say this again every time we talk about it. Welcome to America, where we're either over-regulate or under-regulate. We can't just regulate. We have no idea. It is not in our American bones to figure out how exactly to do a thing. I don't think it is.
You can't meet in the middle?
I don't think it is. And like we are, because what we'll do is, they won't do there'll be maggots in all the meat, right? So they're like, okay, we're going to get rid of all that. We're going to put all these safety regulations. And then eventually things swing around to where they're like, hey, there's no maggots, but like now I can't even buy meat. How do we do that? And then it swings back the other way completely. And you're like, hey, the maggots are back. I thought we figured that out. And it's just on and on and on. And this is the entire history of our country. We came up with a good idea at the beginning, like day one. Since then, we have been trial and which everybody is, I guess, but like we are trial and error when it comes to figuring these things out.
Kim Coulter, I said this 2 weeks ago, and most of y'all chastised me. The NFL model is wildly successful and a logical solution to college football's challenges.
I mean, it might be where they're going because they have no choice.
It is all but that model. It's just that the NFL has rules. They have a salary cap. They have a union. They have, if you break a contract, you don't get paid, or you can get cut and yet still get paid. And it's if the players in college football had contracts that they truly signed, and oh, by the way, there are schools that will look at those who sign NIL agreements and then sign with somebody else, even though they've signed an NIL agreement. Which school has the balls to actually take that contract to court? Why would you not do that? Why not? If a player signs an NIL agreement and then turns around and signs another one with somebody else and leaves, why would you not challenge that, and why would you not take that to court?
Because it's easier to let him go.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to let him go.
Yeah, I'm not talking about just the ones that we mentioned in our opening headlines.
Because it's easier to be like, oh, you don't want our money? Good. We won't give it to you. So I think it's way easier to do that.
Yeah. All right. So, I had somebody that is a part of university athletics that just happened to tell me, I wish our guy would do that. I wish our legal department would do that. If anything, I don't know, would it stop anything? Probably not. Not until they have everything kind of, I don't know if they ever will have everything kind of bundled in a big knot. When we come back, 365 Sports, there's a couple of other stories that we need to get to, and we will. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people you can count on for all of your automotive needs, and they've been that way in Central Texas for over 20 years now. That's why, in part, they're celebrating their big anniversary savings event right now over at Richard Carr, 26 years to be exact. And right now, you can save $4,500, for example, on a new 2025 Buick Encore GX, or $7,500 on a new 2025 Buick Envista, named a 2024 Car and Driver's Editor's Choice. There's a couple of options for you out of the Buick lineup. Thousands in savings going on right now during the anniversary sales event. Also, if you're not looking new but looking for a pre-owned vehicle, during the Spring into Savings event, they have 100 used cars priced to move on the lot right now for your upcoming summer travel. All pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and they approve buyers that others don't, as 100% credit approval is always the goal. So just a couple of options for you there, both new and pre-owned vehicles. But regardless of what you're looking at, hundreds, if not thousands, in savings can be had right now. Locally owned, locally run, celebrating 26 years in business in Waco. Do business with a dealership that gives back to the local community. Deal with people you can count on now over at Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Penny to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
I was watching the timeline on Twitter yesterday as I was trying to get ready for the week and guests and much more. And then I saw Eric Sondheimer from the LA Times. Eric, I hope I said the name correctly. He had been covering high school football and sports in Southern Cal for nearly 50 years, 48 to be exact. And a comment that he had about Nico Iamaleava, who's now back in California at UCLA. You saw him when he was young, saw his stardom rise. Thank you very much, by the way, for your time with us today. So what did you know about Nico, and what are your thoughts? You've seen him when he was a great young player, still might be great, we don't know, and where he is now.
He's certainly a great athlete. At 6'6", he was a tremendous volleyball player. He can run, he can throw, and he can lead. He's been at a couple high schools during his high school career. His coach at Warren and Downey was Kevin Pearson, who coached Bryce Young at Cathedral for his first couple years. And Kevin tells me he expects him to be a top 10 NFL pick next in another year. So he clearly has the talent. Certainly he's in the media spotlight and the fan spotlight because of his decision to transfer. But I think we'll all learn a little bit more when he decides to talk a little bit. And I have no idea when that's going to happen. UCLA, I was at their practice last Friday. They refused to discuss anything. They wouldn't even let Joey Aguilar, who was going to be the starter, even talk, and now he's leaving. So we're in a real big mess in college football and other sports, and we just have to go with the flow and see where it turns out.
Would it be fair, I mean, this is us from the outside saying it, to categorize Big Nick Iamaleava as a helicopter parent?
His father definitely controls things. His younger brother was at Warren High School last season. He didn't like something, and he flat out transferred him to Long Beach Poly, and we never saw him again because they were in violation of transfer rules. So he does what he thinks is right. He does what he thinks is best for his family. And he's done this, I think, to bring him back to Southern California. You know, his mother had a scare with cancer beforehand. So maybe he needs to be back here closer. But clearly he didn't do it solely for money because he was making more money at Tennessee, and UCLA does not have that money. So it will be interesting to see exactly how he talks about it, what he wants to accomplish. Clearly, he's an NFL prospect, but everybody's going to watch and wait and see what he can do at UCLA, which does not have the talent that Tennessee has. But they still have a decent talent. Their offensive line should be experienced, but that doesn't mean it will be good.
Eric, I know LA is a pro sports town. So Southern California, though, just sports obsessed. How much does something like this kind of register and make a splash in sports circles? This topic, this player from that area, and also coming to UCLA, a program that certainly doesn't get a ton of attention necessarily on the gridiron, but now is getting more attention than they probably have in the last 5 years.
I think it'll be a big impact for the Big Ten in general because there's so many good teams and so many good players, and he just adds to it. It probably would have made a bigger plus if he had gone to USC, which obviously has a little more credentials as a football program in LA. But it certainly is going to help UCLA because there really was no one player to sell. As I was at this Friday night practice, nobody really stood out. So clearly they didn't have anybody to sell, and they immediately on Sunday after they announced that he had committed, sent out an email to UCLA fans telling them that Nico had arrived, come out and buy a season ticket. So they're clearly trying to take advantage of this. But I think this has more national implications. People were talking about more than LA. A lot of people in LA knew who Nico was, and they like him. They think, and the players around here who have played against him think he's a good person. And I think he'll help UCLA.
Yeah, a lot of times the story is about what Paul brought up, his father or whatever, the group or whoever's managing him. It would be interesting to hear from him. What do you think we'll find out, Eric? What do you think he'll say? Or is he kind of quiet and we may not hear much from him?
We're talking about Nico, the player.
Yeah.
I think he will love to talk and explain his thinking involved. If a parent is still heavily involved, and I covered LeVar Ball and the Ball brothers, and that was 10 times different than compared to this. Mr. Ball let his sons talk whatever and do whatever they wanted. He let them rise and fall with their own talking, which was the most interesting time I've ever been as a high school writer. These teenagers being allowed out there in front of all the media, ready to succeed or fail on their own. So that was one approach. And this approach is clear that Nico's father is calling the shots. And we'll see what Nico's able to say. I think he's going to say that he wanted to be closer to his family. He thinks that he can succeed at UCLA, which has hired a lot of pro assistant coaches, and they have a new offensive coordinator who's very highly regarded. And something happened at Tennessee. I have no idea what that was. We may never find out. There's always two sides to a story. And at this time and age, the transfer portal is crazy. There are no rules. So everybody's got to calm down. Until there's rules, anything can happen.
Eric Sondheimer with the LA Times has covered high school sports in the Southern Cal area now for 48 years. And I saw him make a comment on Twitter, and I was like, man, I'm going to reach out to Eric, who responded to me. Good to have you on the show today. Paul, you got anything for Eric? I got a question. You mentioned the olive surrounding. Yeah, here seems to be a good young man, and I don't know how much of this is in his control or not. You wish it all was. Yes, what's the reaction for those in California, LA, about what and who he is thought of to be right now?
There's certainly a group of thinking that he is all he cares about is money. And that's been put out because of all the talk around and talk show hosts. But you also have that group that says that wants players to get what they deserve. And so you have this torn going. Our own columnist, Bill Plaskey, said he's toxic, but I would hold off on saying that because you have to be able to talk to him and find out what the true story is. So I'm waiting to hear from him and hear about it. UCLA really does a good job of bringing in individuals that are good people and don't get into trouble. That's Deshaun Foster's culture. He comes from Terry Donahue, the former coach, and they make it you don't see too many UCLA players getting in trouble. Any program with so many people involved in a football program, over 100, somebody will probably get into trouble. But I think that he'll do well. And like I said, a lot of people already know him. So it's not going to be a problem of fitting in. He just has to learn the offense and show that he's a team player. And I think he will. He's not going to get paid more than $2 million like people maybe at Tennessee was getting. And I just hope people don't forget all the whining going on at Tennessee. They're the ones who offered him in high school something like $8 million and broke everything, broke all the standards for what you want in an NIL deal. So I got no sympathy for anybody from Tennessee when they're complaining about him walking away. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it is, especially when you put it that way. Is UCLA, is this a signal that this is a move that they're starting to care about football in a legitimate way for the first time in a long time?
I doubt that, because I think the basketball program just paid a lot of money for Donovan Dent to come in, several million from New Mexico, who went to school out here. So they had money. The problem with UCLA is they need to get more contributions for their NIL, and they'll be fine. You know, the new NCAA and agreement that's coming up is going to give UCLA $20 million to work with. I have no idea how they're going to split that up, but now all the rules are indicating that most schools are going to use it for a majority of football. So we have to see how this arrival is going to, whether it's going to encourage others to donate. And I'm sure if they win, usually when you have a winning program, that encourages people to want to be involved. So I think that's going to be the key. Can he help lift these others? I think UCLA is in the running for one of the Cal running backs who could transfer there. Also, Roderick Pleasant, who was the fastest athlete in California when he graduated high school out here, is now in the transfer portal from Oregon. He's going to make a visit this coming week. If they get him, he's a defensive back, and the Cal running back. I think that would definitely help the team as far as offense is concerned.
You mentioned Bill Plaskey, who's a longtime columnist from the LA Times, but it's it's a pro sports town. We mentioned that earlier. Has this given UCLA a little bit of limelight that they otherwise at this time of the year would get none of it?
Certainly for football wise, it will and has. But again, everybody needs to see what he's capable of coming. The people here do not live and bleed football in the spring like in the South and Texas. I've seen Texas football. It's crazy. It's like the only thing happening. And I admire everybody for their passion and stuff like that. But we just have too many sports going on. We have too much good weather. We have too many good athletes in other sports to be consumed with football all year round. But yes, I agree with you. It's the pros, it's the Rams, it's the Chargers, it's the Lakers. The Dodgers sell out every game.
Yep.
I mean, we have so much to possibly do here in LA. So to try and break through in the spring, I think that's unusual. You're talking about UCLA football because of this, but you have to see what he can do. Just showing up is not going to have people suddenly buy tickets despite UCLA selling that. They want to see what he's going to give.
So UCLA needs more NIL money. They just gave Nico money. I saw, Scott Dockerman with theathletic.com wrote an article about how UCLA could use some money. Is there any controversy at all about the fact that they're paying him? The way they are, the amount, even if it's less than he made at Tennessee, which appears to be the case.
I don't think so, because they did pay Joey Aguilar, came from Appalachian, and he was going to be the quarterback until Nico decided to come in. And I'm seeing that Joey Aguilar could end up at Tennessee, so we have a player to be named traded. Maybe UCLA will send a surfboard over with Joey and send back something else, money or Elvis Presley items. I don't know. Like I said, there are no rules at this point. As long as people can afford it, things will keep going the way they're going. And I can't wait till the NCAA and the lawsuit gets settled, and we'll finally have some rules and structure to see where we're going here. Because right now, I know that word Wild Wild West is being used. It's true. I mean, nobody knows the rules.
Eric, UCLA, USC, they're in the Big Ten, which is also something that's been changed over the last few years because of conference realignment. Cal and Stanford in the ACC, which is kind of still weird. Like the Cal game with NC State's a big deal. No, it's not. But at the same time, what is now a year into it, almost a year into it, what has been the overall barometer of care when it comes to those schools in the new conferences?
That UCLA and USC can't compete in football very high, if we want to be honest about it. I mean, USC thinks that they're a national title contender every year. That's not been proven at all. They're doing a great job with recruiting class of 226. I believe they have 23 commits. But that's not going to help them this coming year. They have to be ready. You need men now to play college football, not freshmen. And the transfer portal has changed all that, because people need an immediate person to come in there and start immediately. And those are the schools that had strong recruiting that are now bringing in these people that are ready. And so that's how I see it. Being in the Big Ten has been good for the schools. UCLA and USC women did great in basketball out of the Big Ten. UCLA did okay for men's basketball and baseball. Right now, UCLA is leading the Big Ten, and softball, UCLA is great in that, and USC is good in women's soccer. So I think they fit in okay, but it's still unknown for football whether they can move up the ladder when you have Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State still at the top.
Yeah, thank you, man. Eric, appreciate your time. Good insight that we did not know a lot about, and that you gave it to us. That's what I thought. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck to you guys.
You too. Eric Sondheimer from the LA Times. 48 years of covering Southern Cal athletics at the high school level, but also keeping in touch. When Bill Platsky writes a column, he's pro sports, personalities, etc. But it's a different type of feel there. When he says the amount of commitment 24/7, 365 days a year in the South and also in the state of Texas, he's right. There are other sports with commitment too, but it's not the same when you look at the state of California. That's why you have a lot of the Olympians that come from there in all those various sports. Appreciate Eric for giving us his time. What do you? I guess how Nico practices are over. When will be the first time anyone hears from him? Somebody does like an exclusive with him, or will it be at Big Ten Media Days this summer?
I'm sure it'll be. They probably need to do it before then. But UCLA, like you said, they don't really care about it all that much. I mean, it's, that's why I asked him, is this a sign that they're going big on it? And he's like, no, I mean, but this is Deshaun Foster taking advantage of a situation, which he should. When you've got a 5-star quarterback that wants to come and play for you, you're not going to say no, especially since you know that now he's like paying himself into a corner and he's going to take a pay cut and you're still going to give him a bunch of money. I mean, like,
you think anyone has something to prove, it's him. I mean, everyone does every day, but I mean, Nico, it'd be fun. He is a good player. And UCLA now will have him moving forward. Garrett Ross running the mothership. Andrew Valade, Emery Winter is a part of what we do every day. We have a story about SMU. We'll get to that in the next segment as far as their spring football game coming up and a helmet that is really, really cool. We'll get into the chat room with the questions you may have that we have not answered yet today or an opinion you want to give. We'll love to hear from you on that. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. And what they have going on right now in the month of April, which of course they always have at some point eventually, whether it's Jeep or Ram, are the incentives and also dealer discounts. 2024 Ram 3500 diesel 4x4, 56.8 drive home a 2025 Ram 1500 for only $35,900. Those are a couple of things available at Alan Samuels. Ted Teague, the general manager and CEO, David Gray, the new car sales manager, and so much more. How about this? Hot off the press, buyer's choice during truck month at Alan Samuels, 1.9% financing on the 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star or Laramie Crew Cab with a combo deal of $10,000 off MSRP and 3.9% financing for 72 months. That's right, $10,000 off MSRP plus 3.9% financing for 72 months. Or you can straight up just get $15,000 off MSRP. It's your decision to make whether you want the greatness of Ram truck, any kind of Jeep, the Wagoneer, the Jeep Grand Cherokee, and so much more. Alan Samuels and their pre-owned inventory is fantastic. Believe me, the car I drive is one I got there 5 years ago, and it's still ticking along, although a couple of bumps in the road, not because of them, but just because I drive it very hard. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student-athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student-athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student-athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
Saw the story earlier today. SMU, their football team, will have a custom spring helmet designed by a children's health patient for the 3rd consecutive year. Their game's on Friday. The team will proudly wear a one-of-a-kind artwork illustrated by 11-year-old Trevor in honor of his courage, dedication, and strength. Patients participated in a helmet decorating competition, and Trevor's design was unanimously selected as the winner in a vote by SMU football athletes, student athletes. In 2022, a CT scan revealed that Trevor had a tumor in his brain. Physicians rushed him and his family to Children's Health, where he immediately received care. A slow-growing type of brain tumor for nearly 2 years. He visited the health center weekly for chemotherapy, remaining brave, positive throughout his cancer journey. Ring the bell at Children's Health to celebrate the end of his chemotherapy treatment, and good luck. He wants to be an astronaut, helicopter pilot, or scientist in his future.
Well, good. That's an awesome story. It's really good to hear from SMU, and that's very brave to go through all that at such a young age, and to do that and still have the creativity and the verve that he has. It's a heartwarming story.
I mean, he could have colored the lines a little better, and no, I'm just kidding. That's cool. That's a good deal.
It's a pretty good looking Mustang.
Yeah, I mean, I at first I thought it was just somebody random had done that, but you hear the backstory to it and it makes a lot more sense, and now I can appreciate it a lot more. I thought that somebody like a real graphic designer put that together, and I was like, I don't know about that for like an alternate uniform. But then you see like it's a young kid who's in the hospital and is, fighting, like, I mean, it's so brave and admirable and just cool, and to have him create a design that a football team's going to go wear on a Saturday this fall, if not more than that, I think is spring game. And then perhaps, maybe even if it goes well, a Saturday this fall. I think that's awesome. I mean, it's just a spring game. Try and do something cool to liven it up and do something good with it. And I think SMU definitely accomplished that with this right here. So kudos to Rhett Lashley and whoever came up with the idea. I think that's awesome.
Also, isn't it Iowa that they have the hospital that overhangs part of their stadium that they wave to at certain time during the game, every game, home game, which is awesome. Craig, in the question in the chat room, are you a John Cena fan?
Not really. No, I mean, a fan. No, I respect what he's done. I don't think that last night ended very well. I thought the ending was absolutely subpar to WrestleMania Night 2. Could have done it so many different ways, so much better than what they actually did. We'll see where the story goes, but I've been for as hyped as the big heel turn was, and as cool as I thought that was in the moment. It's left a lot to be desired so far. We'll see how the rest of the year plays out. Maybe they do some cool stuff with it, but so far I'm a bit underwhelmed at what's taking place at this point.
Is this the change in the family leadership and all that?
So does he go out a heel? Is that the deal?
He probably won't by the end of it. He broke the record, so he's had the world title more than Ric Flair. He broke Ric Flair's record of 16, so now he's got the 17th. But just the way that they did it with like Travis Scott it was just, I found it to be very underwhelming. And I could call it what I really want to call it, but I'm sure there are people out there that enjoyed it, so to each their own. But I'll be the polite word of underwhelmed by the rest of the show was freaking great. But like that part of it, the part most people probably paying attention to, I just think it could have been so much better than it was. But yeah, he's going to inevitably, and speaking of, Children's Hospital, I mean, the guy's made more Make-A-Wishes in real life than anybody in history.
Cena?
I mean, he's Mr. Make-A-Wish, yeah.
Okay.
And so for him to turn bad, a big reason why he didn't do that for so long was because he was like Mr. Make-A-Wish, Mr. Nice Guy. Well, now he's like, I got nothing left. This is definitely it. He's not a great. He was never great to begin with. He was pretty good at times. He's definitely past his prime.
It's presentation.
He's all presentation. Yeah. He's all smoke and mirrors at this point, which is fine. He's an older dude who's been doing it a really long time, so I'm not knocking that. But that was the big why he would never be a bad guy. So now he is, and he'll probably be for the next few months, and then Cody Rhodes will beat him in like December, and he'll ride off into the sunset, and everybody got their way, basically. You know, he got the record and got to be a bad guy for the first time in a long time, and they still end up, you know, paying it off to the business in the long run. So that's how I think it will go. He definitely will not go out a bad guy. That just wouldn't make any sense whatsoever.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask, because it was in the chat room, and a couple of people wanted to bring it up. If John Cena is 1 and Ric Flair is 2, who are like all – is this like Barry Bonds breaking Henry Aaron's home run record?
I mean, it's not really, because that was, you know, real life. I mean, so it's a little bit different given that you've sort of orchestrated it. But, I mean, it's a big deal. I mean – I don't know how many other guys are going to come along and have the opportunity to do that anytime soon, especially when a Cody Rhodes is on number 1, if you count just his WWE, and he's had the title for like a year. So to think that he's going to be able to do that 16 more times, it's possible, but it's not a guarantee. So this was a long time coming. You have to have a really long career or just a bunch of dumb finishes to make this happen this many times. So it's a cool record, but it's not like it's not as impactful as breaking the Babe Ruth home run record or anything like that. For wrestling fans, though, it's a pretty big deal.
I had actually seen, and a lot of times we just say, take it for granted about Craig and WrestleMania, et cetera, like that. And it sometimes we overstate that. But I did see a couple of notes that there were more people. There was, oh, my God, he just won the all-time, and then also some that were underwhelmed by the way it finished.
No, the finish I thought was terrible, but it's a cool accomplishment. So they got what they wanted in the end as far as the end goal, but just the path to that, I think plenty of people feel like it could have gone better than it did. And I think John Cena in his last run is still a TBD on how successful it is. I think there's a lot of in the middle right now on how this has gone. So we'll see tonight. He'll be out there tonight, and he'll be the champ again, and we'll see how heel Cena continues to go on. But he'll knock out this last year, and then he'll definitely be gone. So if you were a big fan of his, then soak it all up while you can, and hope he just stays healthy throughout so that he can go off on his own terms.
There's Sting is my dude.
Sting's freaking first ballot.
Road Dogg.
One of the coolest wrestlers of all time. No question.
Travis Scott ruined the vibe.
He did ruin the vibe. You're absolutely right. If The Rock could at least come out, then you can justify it. But the fact that it was just Travis Scott, it just was so like, that's it. Like, that was it. And yeah, he killed the vibe. You're right about that.
Kim Coulter does not know who the real Will Rogers is. Isn't there one that he always said he never met a man he didn't like or something?
Yeah, Will Rogers.
Yeah,
it was a country entertainer back in the day.
Yeah, and Kim goes, I know of a Bill Rogers, University of Houston golfer. I think he ended up going to Houston, and he won an Open Championship, Bill Rogers, the golfer. Sting not singing and playing drums, by the way.
Yes, different Stings.
Yeah, I know.
Different Stings.
I
but, Sting, the wrestler, going out on his, basically his autograph retirement tour. He's made it known that he's actually going to be at, the Comic-Con here in a couple of weeks or something. But
in Waco?
He's only doing this last go round of actually wearing the face paint. You can imagine how tedious that is to do that constantly, and they have to do that for autograph appearances. And he's just old and gray hair, and he's not even dyeing the hair at this point. He's just getting through this last circuit, and he's gonna, then when you see him in future years, he's gonna have no face paint on. He'll just have probably sunglasses, because that's how he kind of did that. But yeah, that dude's awesome. He's incredible.
I was told by a person, a friend of mine, when I was in high school, because I think he had a beach house in Fort Myers, back in the day. DDP lived down there.
All the wrestlers lived down in Florida. They still do, actually.
So we were at a restaurant, and a guy and my friend was like, "Hey, that's Sting," and I was like, No, it's not Sting. He's like, yeah, it's Sting. I was like, I could not have told you what he looked like at that point, especially in 1997 without his face paint. But
yeah, he would do an occasional appearance here and there back then. But if he didn't have face paint on, then he would have sunglasses, and that was like how he still stayed sort of hidden. Was that like bleach blonde crop top sting, or was that like brown hair growing it out?
He had
okay, it was like 96, 97.
It was like
probably,
96, 97. I mean, like he was like when it was when it was in the WCW years, right?
Yeah.
So like it was them, and I think because the WCW, like there were so many guys that lived down in Fort Myers.
Oh,
like,
dude,
there were so many of them that lived down there.
There used to be so many back then. Like Hogan was down there, and Savage was. I mean, Sarasota, Tampa has a lot. Tampa St. Pete has.
Well, that's where Hulk's
house
house was. Remember, over the bridge.
Yeah, and so now a lot of them are in Orlando because that's where the facility is.
Mhm.
But Florida's like a hotbed, always has been.
A high school buddy of mine works there. So
does he still work there?
Yeah, I think he does. Still,
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what else he would do. Like it's one of those things that, given his skill set as a former Ultimate Fighter and a guy who wanted to be a wrestler, Seth Petroselli's who we're talking about, he beat Kimbo Slice in a fight.
What was his last name?
Petroselli.
He's a former Red Sox player. Rico.
That's Rico Petroselli. Yeah. No relation, but yeah, he works at I believe the last I had heard he was
currently. I don't know when his Wikipedia's been updated. Yeah, I don't think he's been with WWE here of late, but he was at one point in time.
He's like a trainer and stuff like that. So that's what he's doing now. So
it always makes me bring up Hulk Hogan because my uncle lived in Clearwater, and they had a beautiful place, and you could go across the bridge, and it was Hulk Hogan's place. You could see it from the road.
So when I lived in Tampa, this is so weird because every time I've ever flown out of Waco, which is very rarely, Ted Nugent has been on my flight because he lives here. And then, which I'm always at ease to see Ted Nugent on a flight because I know if something goes down, he's crazy. But when I was in Tampa, 3 different times I was on a plane with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, well, he's wildly hated now. So
Southwest flights too, which made me feel like, something's going on there.
He didn't have his own Lear, or
no, I don't know, but like he was. I mean, look. In 2002 at that point. But it was when they were doing, random pat downs after 9/11. And the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life was we were a part of like 6 people that got pulled randomly, and I think his was random was because the guy at the TSA was like, "Oh, it's Hulk Hogan. I'm going to pat him down."
Yeah.
And he said out loud, because his real name is Terry Balea, and he goes, "Mr. Balea, could you remove your fanny pack, sir?" And the whole time I'm like, I just pictured Hulk Hogan like coming into the ring, be like, "I will take you, and I will win the championship. Hold on, I need a mint." And just like,
I mean, the fanny pack's part of the wardrobe for I think that business has single-handedly kept fanny packs in business, basically. I don't know anybody else that wears them, but
for
wrestlers.
Steroids, but even still, like it just was funny to me to be like, "Oh, okay," like.
Yeah, no, it is. It's got to be wild to see the Hulkster in an airport and with his fanny pack and all that. Yeah, but he's wildly hated now. I mean, widely despised by a good portion of the wrestling fans. So I don't know how often we're going to see the Hulkster moving forward after the last time we saw him just get booed out of the building in Los Angeles. But
that was bad.
Oh yeah,
what happened? He was. Wasn't WrestleMania last year? Was that where it was?
No, it was at a Raw earlier this year. He was promoting his new beer. It was like Real American Beer or something. And he came out in Los Angeles and they booed him off the stage. And there's been a growing sentiment. It's a long story because of just how much of a racist he's been, how much of a liar he is. I mean, never seen, maybe I have seen some people that lie as much as he does, but it's stiff competition. Lies about things you don't need to lie about, which is really when you know you're talking to a liar. But yeah, just has really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way with his behavior the last several years, and it's finally just caught up to him, as it normally does. Karma catches up to everybody, and it's caught up to the Hulkster for sure.
Paxton, Thugonomics. Craig knows Thugonomics.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the theme song back when he was doing that version of his theme. Don't know if we'll hear that before he signs off at the end of the year, but yeah, it was cool. Cool weekend with all the Mania events going on. Just sour ending, but I'll be tuned in tonight to see what he has to say, and hopefully it gets a little livelier than it has been. But I'm still in. I just thought it could have been better.
I actually heard somebody say. And I'm not making fun of him, but I couldn't believe, he goes, was Andre the Giant involved? How long has he been gone?
He's been dead for at least 30 years at this point.
let's see, the Sheik.
The Iron Sheik.
Or just the regular Sheik, the
Oh,
original
yeah.
Sheik. So not sure which one you're talking
I
about.
don't
But yeah,
either.
know of them both. And both have passed away. But yeah, Iron Sheik was hot there on Twitter. Whoever was running his profile there for a few years, you saw him pop up occasionally until he passed away. And the original Sheik was a legend in his own right as well.
I think whoever it was just following him around and tweeting things. Like if he saw something on television, he would just direct quote him. Like,
or
right
you
after
just
that, or
just took what he was saying and you just applied it to everything. And because I don't think there at the end that was much him. I wasn't paying close attention to it, but I know some people had that theory. But yeah, there for a while he had hook, line, and sinker. Everybody believing it was him. So if it was, then he had a big little Twitter following there for quite a while. But he passed away 4 or 5 years ago.
Man, a lot of you in the chat room with your thoughts about different wrestlers, et cetera, the sport itself, and also even what happened over the weekend. Paul's top 5 is just around the corner. If college football, and I will break here in
A couple
a second.
years ago, Sheik passed away. I just double checked that because 4 and 5 didn't sound right. 2 years ago, he passed away. Iron Sheik. So
I did not know that.
I
would never have known that.
I like to be right. I don't like to I don't like to say something and just roll with it. I do what you're not taught to do, but I want to make sure that I inform the audience correctly. So yeah, it was just a couple of years ago. Not that anybody cared about that.
Yeah.
No, you always correct anything that may be wrong. That's good. We need cross-checking, like in hockey, right, Garrett? Thanks to the and I asked you this earlier. The Stars have now lost 8 straight, and now down 1 game to none to the Avalanche.
Yep, they're probably going to go down 2 games tonight because they are sucking right now.
Lakers got thumped by. What'd you say about Anthony Edwards, Paul? That he loved the game.
Yeah,
Yep.
I watched a good chunk of that game the other day. It was. I mean, I start watching the NBA in the playoffs every year, and this was not a great weekend for it. It was mostly blowouts.
Somebody lost by 50?
Yeah, Memphis.
By 51.
Yeah. It's too bad Emery's not here because that was his Oklahoma City Thunder that did that, who I think's going to probably win the whole thing. They're so good. But yeah, that was one of the things where you're like, Amanda and I were watching the game, and for a while you're like, wow, look at all the stuff Oklahoma City's doing. You're like, okay, I'm not going to watch this anymore because this is sad.
Yeah,
it's just sad.
They've got some good young stars. Also, one of the note. I just went blank. Ever happen to you? It happens to me all the time.
I'm 45 now, Smokey. It's going to happen to me more and more every day.
I know. I know. So Jennifer and Daniel had the reveal.
Yeah. How did you enjoy the gender reveal party, guys? Did you enjoy the
Craig was there.
The concept of it? I'm glad.
When I heard it was going to be 2 hours, I was like, why would it possibly be 2 hours? Like, what are we doing for 2 hours?
I should have sent Garrett the video.
But it's yeah, I mean, it was cool. I this is my sister. She's having a kiddo, so that was a really big deal. I just never was looped into the circuit of all of the to-dos now, and the older women that were there. Like, we didn't do this when I was growing up. Like, you have a party for every little moment now. So that I was still more in that camp of like, you do parties for all this stuff. The baby shower I get, but like we've already had like 4 parties or something. At least it feels that way. So yeah,
That's true.
I just was there and in support, and it was really cool and a cool moment and a cool time period right now for the family. So yeah, it was cool. I don't envy those that have to go to like 20 of those. It's great to have 20 friends, but like when you are all doing this, like having kids at the same time or getting married at the same time, and it turns into you have like all of these events that you have to cram into. I don't envy that, although the payoff is incredible because I can't imagine what it would be like to just have those stacked every single weekend, seemingly, one thing or the other. But it was cool to check out and be a part of.
All right.
Well, now the big question is.
Wait a minute. Scotty goes, welcome to the Uncle Club, Craig.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. No, I'm excited about it. I'm very excited.
It's fun for a little while. But
I sent you the video, Gary.
Yeah. So the big question now, Smokey, is what is your grandpa name going to be? And knowing that this is a very important decision. You have to pick something that they can say that's not going to wind up giving you a stupid nickname.
Well, okay. When I grew up, my grandfather from my dad's side was Granddad. Very easy.
So I had Nan and
then
Granddad.
my mom's was Pop. which is a
Papa.
cool name.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we called him. And I know they got all sorts of different names. And then for Craig, my father was Grandy. That was, and what was Mr. Jolly?
It's Papaw.
Papaw. So it was pretty simple when it comes to that. So I get to pick the name, or is it the kid?
I mean, the kid
picks.
The kid
That's
picks,
what I thought.
But the thing is that you pick a name first and hope that it sticks, so you don't wind up with something like PP or something. You know, like you don't want that. So
okay, I don't know. But the reveals, that's it for our generation, my generation. That's something that I've kind of seen that popping up on social media over the last few years. But I'm not so. And they had a great time. That's what's important.
You're not a pawpaw.
No.
You're not a pappy.
No.
You're not a pops. You're not a poppy. You know, maybe you might be a poppy. I don't know. You can't. I don't know. But
like Big Poppy?
Yeah, you're not.
You allowed to use that?
No, I don't think you can. You're not. So, there. I've got a list of 89 grandpa names.
Paxton said Papa Smoak. That's what Jennifer's friends in high school call me, Papa Smoak. But I'm not going to be a papa. I'll be a grandfather. Which is awesome.
But Papa is like that. You could. You could maybe.
So.
You know what? You might be able to pull off Papa.
Yeah,
I think you can pull off Papa.
So by the way, it was a girl. That's the reveal. It came out with a big 15-pound chocolate egg. Daniel and Jennifer dropped it on the floor, which thank God it had all sorts of covering, and it was exploded with pink everywhere. So that's what we have. It's also Oriole's birthday today. She's 16, Jennifer's border collie. When we come back, Paul Catalina and his top 5 and more. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com with Dr. Rob Maxey and the ownership of that great business that can help find out what is bothering, hurting you, and maybe shutting you down. Whether it's in your shoulder, your lower back, or maybe your knee, your neck, somewhere where the doctor needs a better look. It's not an x-ray, it's an MRI. If your doctor wants an MRI, you need to recommend Ideal MRI. In fact, whenever I've ever brought it up, everybody knows exactly who they are. $497 or less every single time, and people do drive from outside of the area of Central Texas to come and save money, but also get the image that you need and the doctor needs. It's an MRI machine, state-of-the-art technology. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace, just off I-35 in Waco.
Escape into fitness with the Schwinn IC4 bike. providing a premium, heart-pumping indoor cycling experience that combines digital connectivity with superior Schwinn quality. The IC4's smooth, quiet ride features magnetic resistance with 100 micro-adjustable resistance levels, an intuitive resistance knob, a beautiful backlit LCD display, adjustable race-style seat, dual-link pedals with toe cages, and a pair of 3-pound dumbbells with easy-reach cradles. Place your phone or tablet on the media rack and keep them charged with the IC4's convenient USB charging station, extra-large dipped handlebars for premium grip, and dual water bottle holders for staying hydrated. The Schwinn IC4 comes with a slim, comfortable, Bluetooth-enabled heart rate armband that continuously monitors heart rate to help you stay within your target zone. But the best part about the IC4 is premium digital connectivity. Digitally immerse yourself in a world of virtual races, exotic locales, and stunning trails from around the globe. With connectivity to cycling and coaching apps like Peloton, Explore the World, and Zwift, with the Schwinn IC4 bike, you can ride with Peloton at a fraction of the price. Don't limit yourself to one digital experience. Pedal through dozens of scenic destinations, controlling your pace by speeding up or slowing down. Fitness was never meant to be put in a box, and neither were you. Escape the everyday with the Schwinn IC4 bike, your ticket to a life well lived.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Ticket Club. Forget the fees, just big savings. Click the link in the description to find out more.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, presented by Ticket Club. We continue my second annual mock draft. We're in the middle of the first round, starting with pick number 16. Matthew Golden, wide receiver, Texas, going to the Cardinals. Look, I know that they went Marvin Harrison Jr. in the first round, and there's a good chance he gets picked before this. The Cowboys are certainly a huge possibility for Matthew Golden if they decide to go that way instead of Ted McMillan, or say Ashton Genty miraculously falls to them. But a 1-2 punch of this speed demon plus Marvin Harrison Jr. plus the other weapons that they have for Kyler Murray is a winner for Arizona. They can do a lot with this guy. Really great year last year, and the surface hasn't even really been scratched yet. Matthew Golden, big-time player. Pair him with Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., and thank me later, Cardinals. Number 17, Micah Williams, defensive end, Georgia to Cincinnati. Look, Trey Hendrickson is in a contract dispute. Who knows how that's going to get worked out if they trade him, if they figure it out. Either way, if you keep him, draft this guy. If you trade him, you really need to draft this guy because you're going to need a guy to get after the quarterback. So go get who is the best one available at this point in the draft where you pick at 17. This guy is a quarterback hunter. Go get him. Number 18, Carolina, Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver, Ohio State. I actually think this guy is the most complete wide receiver at this point in his career than anybody in the draft. And the reason we forget about him is because he's played with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jeremiah Smith and Jackson Smith and Jigba and all of these great wide receivers. But he's been nothing but a first down machine and a scoring machine for the Buckeyes his entire career. He's a great route runner. He's got great hands. He's got good speed. He is someone who can help you right away. A number one receiver, I don't know, but everybody needs more than one. Great number 2 wide receiver. Carolina needs as many weapons as it can get for Bryce Young in Dave Canales' offense. I think he's a great fit. I think he's someone who is going to step in and contribute early on as a rookie because he is so established and so well coached. Number 19,
Tampa Bay, Nick Iamaleava, South Carolina safety. This guy is an athlete and a half. Tests off the charts. Malachi Starks is the other safety. I'll have him going later on in the draft, but I love Nick Iamaleava. He shot off the charts this year. He's got like linebacker size as far as height and weight goes, but cornerback speed, makes big plays, hits really hard. He can be that kind of safety that Tampa Bay has had in the past. He can be your John Lynch kind of a guy back there that makes plays and makes people afraid to be deep down the field. And finally, with the 20th pick, the second running back goes off the board. Omarion Hampton, running back, North Carolina, to the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton needs his bell cow. I got your man, Sean Payton. Omarion Hampton, an absolute workhorse at UNC over the last few seasons. He had 365 more yards rushing than the entire FSU roster last year. One, that's how good he is, and that's how bad it was. He is absolutely fantastic. He is dominant. If not for Ashton Jeanty, we'd be talking about him as the top running back in the draft. He is that good in a loaded running back draft class. This guy is probably 1A in most years. He is number 2 because Ashton Jeanty is a stud. But Denver can't go wrong. He's a great fit for Sean Payton's offense. That is going to do for the top 5. Then tomorrow, we continue on with the next 5 picks. This is 365 Sports. This is the end of the show as soon as Smokey says it is.
Well, I got to do a couple of things first because Andrew Valade puts a lot of time into making sure he shoots out into the social media stratosphere all of what we do every day, from segments to interviews. Where will Shedeur Sanders be drafted? Of course, the draft is on Thursday through Saturday. First round on Saturday, on Thursday night. 33%. Well, the most is late first round. Second is the top 10. And then third, not much difference, a second round or later. I don't think you'll get to the second round. I think maybe, what do you guys think? Paul, Craig, where do you think he's going to go?
I think he's going to go in the top 10. I don't think he gets past 9 at the Saints. Yeah, I think he'll be in the top 10 easily. So now, if he somehow falls out of that, I mean, he's not getting out of the first round at all because somebody will trade up and get him. But since this is not a quarterback draft, I think he's going to get locked in there. So
Bruce Feldman said, Craig, that it's the worst crop of quarterbacks couple of NFL scouts, personnel guys that they've seen in quite some time.
I mean, yeah, I guess I can believe that based on the kind of lack of star power. It's been pretty much Cam at number 1, and then however you want to order the guys beyond that. Not a very deep crew. I think Shedeur is pretty clear the number 2 guy. I'd say he goes top 10. I feel pretty strongly about that. I definitely don't think he gets out of the first round. But, yeah, we'll see if maybe he slides. Something crazy happens and the dominoes fall a certain way. But I'd have my money on top 10. And, yeah, I agree. It's not – I just think the draft class, I'm just like, this point just needs to get here. I just want to see the draft at this point. Like, I just don't even care about any of the rest of it. I just want to see Cam Ward go number 1 and then let the rest of it fall where it goes and be able to talk about that as opposed to further preview at this point.
A lot of heat with Tyler Shuck, former, Texas Tech quarterback, among others, that
Oregon.
He is
Louisville,
possibly a second-round pick. And, of course, older, polished, but kind of forgot about him. All right, the other one that we have, the other poll is, will Cooper Flagg be the number 1 pick in the draft? I don't think there's nothing but should be 100%. 100%. Yes, he's the top talent. 73.1, not sure. And no, someone else will go first, pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Who would get drafted in front of him?
I mean, unless there's, I don't think
one of those Rutgers dudes that I mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be. Edgecombe's not going to go number 1. He's probably top 5. There's not really a star foreign player that's the unequivocal of Victor Wembanyama, Giannis Antetokounmpo, those types of players. I mean, there's some good foreign players, but there's nobody like that at the top of the tippy top of the draft. So, yeah, I think it's Cooper Flagg, and I don't know that there's really even close besides that.
Yeah.
All right. Andrew, great stuff. Andrew does this twice during the show, a couple of different polls, and then at the end of the show each day, when we wrap it up, we give you the results, and we appreciate it. For those of you who have voted, we appreciate your time. By the way, we'll have a couple of NFL draft analysts. Our John Cooper and also Eric Galko will join us on the show at some point. I think both of them on Wednesday for sure, the night and the day before the draft. All right, thank you, Garrett Ross, Andrew Valade, Emery Winter, tonight, 10:30 on the local CW 365 Sports Tonight with the segments we had, and also discussion and interviews for Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak. Thank you for your time. We're back again tomorrow, triple option at 1. We're back at 3 with this show. Have a great night. This is 365 Sports.